I'm wondering if I should get a copy of that. I'll be right back.
They're coming through.
And so those are the areas, you know, I'm not saying I agree with you.
Everyone gets to use in perpetuity, so we're good. Wait, Aaron. What?
What is it? Yeah.
Okay, let's you and David and I can hustle for a second. The other thing we need to figure out is I don't know how to use the sound thingy in the
Do you need to grab one of these?
So
I will. Yeah, go ahead.
So we have I think a lot of people are going to be coming up to this table, so we can do something differently if you need to be right
No,
here.
that's fine. I'm just getting one shot.
Got it. Cool. Okay, awesome.
Are we all intellectual property?
Not quite. Not quite. You can read it, but it's not quite that, and then the photo consent and release form.
Sure.
Yeah. And then you can also make a name tag for yourself.
Okie doke, thank you.
I got it. I just need to be shown to the photo. And thank you so much for being here.
Or you can put them in there directly, or you can give them to Mario. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm just going to leave these right here. You just drop them in there whenever.
Got it.
She pointed to that speak stereo situation.
Well, I mean, as far as actually having people come in and get our feedback, that would be cool. I'm here to volunteer for Aaron. How's it going?
Good, how are you? Good.
Okay.
So, today we're doing, so I guess we're going to start soon on blockchain 101.
Yes or no answer?
Yes. Well, and geolocating. Oh, no, you got it back up.
So it's already-
Right, so yeah, this looks like
It's just, it's education for us. It's going to be,
so
you know, there are the barriers that we're just because people aren't familiar with the technology. Before I became part of the team, I had no clue. Just learning, more and more every day.
So it's much like issuing a JSON web token where there's an experience.
Yeah, it's just, I wasn't sure how far image recognition had gone. And so,
Facebook seems to have brought it pretty far.
really?
I haven't used Facebook in quite some time, but
There's a lot of publicity about this.
Nice to meet you, Frank. Yeah, so
Loves to tweet.
Yeah, cool.
So they'll, it might be wrong. But yeah, a lot of people work this morning. Like, that's awesome.
Hi. Get you some participant agreements, some pens, and then a photo release form, and then there's name tags at the end.
You're welcome to fill them out over here, and Stephanie can to me, or Stephanie, we each fill out folders.
If people are looking to be on a team,
Okay, awesome. Frank, great. Okay. Yeah.
there's 3 of us on our team, we're all developers.
Okay.
I'm not a developer. New developer would be welcome.
Like a designer,
Yeah, someone
maybe?
wants to be if they're non-developer, but they want to participate.
Yeah.
I can make it so.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I'm not even going to be here today. My actual company team is all here to participate.
Oh, awesome.
But I sit on the Boston Blockchain Collective Committee with the Dow Medical School. So I was
Okay.
wondering if Chief Innovation Officer for the city, Carrie, yeah, she's here. I want to make sure I introduce her to my team because I told her that I didn't think we could make it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she's sitting all the way down there. She has blue hair.
Yes, yes, I know she is.
Thank you. And then did you get the photo release form too?
No.
Okay.
It's the 27th. I'm just gonna make signs. Also, it's July, the 7th month of the year, not the 8th month, as I've been asked.
Do you know whose this is?
No, I thought that was yours.
What do I do with this? Do I throw it away?
Ori.
what? Oh yeah, I need this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here.
Okay, I will switch out these folders and take these and then these folders. I feel like we're gonna get a lot of them.
Yeah, I hope, yeah, we are.
If you just kind of hook around to your right there, you'll see another sign pointing you at.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
they got to start somewhere. And it may be the idea, it may be the map card, you know, so then this one is the level of complexity. Because now you're bringing something into it, which it'll be a fun ride for a couple of days. See how this thing goes. But yeah.
What it is why it's basic nutshell, kind of like Jose said, all that information you can say in one spot.
Thank you. Oh yeah, right here. And there's also
I printed this. I think the one thing that's confused, like I didn't quite get, is like what time they're gonna start culling them. Like at the end of the day, I think they're gonna say on Sunday, like not everyone gets to continue.
Yeah.
I guess she'll
we
talk
just
about that.
can't. We just can't.
It's pretty impressive how it all came together.
Yeah, I know. Literally, we planned this in like 3.5 hours.
Yeah. There's a microphone there. Okay. Or maybe it's an antenna.
No, it's a microphone.
Great.
It's a lavalier.
It appears to be on.
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions. I think that guy's laughing because I think it's going into his ear. Yeah. You're so sneaky.
Scheduled for the whole weekend.
Yes, for the whole weekend. And then we have a separate one for advisors and judges when they come tomorrow.
Did you talk to Carrie about the intro? I think she's planning on doing it unless you... Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it might be nice for you to say hi from the mayor's office.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know she was working on talking points. So.
Yeah. They got very detailed.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm impressed how quickly this came together.
I am
3.5
too.
Yeah.
Stephanie, Aaron, Daniel, Hector, like they did some real heavy lifting.
Yeah. I hope we have like more than just the 5 of us talking in circles.
Uh-huh.
I think, yeah, and I also think like having dedicated people help, right? Like you and Hector and Aaron were all here every day.
Yeah,
like
the fact that we were here for like 4
Yeah,
or 5
like
hours
just have
every
like
day.
a 3 to 5 day delay between activities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just waved and said hi and gave people high fives.
Yeah. You did a lot of work. Which
Just
is
sent
service
emails.
providers. No,
Just
I mean,
sent
I
a lot of emails.
think you're the reason that a lot of these service providers are here.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited about KIT for map eligibility. I feel like that's the lowest hanging fruit of all of these.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I did email also all of the legal leads for community care and for central health, and they're unfortunately out on vacation. But the community care.
I'm here to talk on behalf of Hector.
Oh yeah, I
We'll do a 101 from the perspective of a non-technical person. We're going to do is talk about it.
Yeah.
We could get into some technical.
You know what's surprising? That people were mostly out of town. I've only got one person who was like, oh, I did it. Everyone else.
A lot of what you hear about the news is sort of how people are applying it to systems of operations that are already in place, and they're just kind of like, oh, this makes sense here. Talk about it a little bit from that perspective, but then also give an example of how to maybe think about it disruptively.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's for
It feels like it. There is a way for auditability and traceability.
Oh yeah,
A friend of mine said
Just this, that's the photo.
A friend of mine said they're actually people in Google's payroll who are doing it.
Oh, yeah, that sounds great. don't know what I'm agreeing to here.
Oh, it's just because there's press here and the city's communications.
Oh, okay.
And media is here, so just if you don't sign that, then you could maybe
If I could sign
tell
on
them, hey, you used my image and voice
Oh, I see.
without my permission.
Well, I'll be happy to do this. 78701. You'd think I'd know the zip code of where I work downtown. There we go. And it is officially the 20th. Thank you. I was a little
I've
sick
been,
this week.
the state has been in my brain for a long time, so.
Is this, oh, I don't have to, what, do I sign right there?
No.
Okay, just, oh, I signed right there already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, thank God I just wrote a bird on it. So, is that all you need?
Yeah. There is right there.
You got it. Here, I have this sign. Go to the left. Everyone up here still got that way. You can also, like, you know, we can give you like a busy work task if you want to like be around and feel.
Say the 27th.
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Marianne.
Welcome.
Thanks for being here today and serving with us. I'm going to go catch up with Hector real quick.
Great.
So it's one of those days if you don't.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you got this, yeah, we need to fill out a vote. Yeah.
I'm actually participating. I'm volunteering for Aaron. Do I still fill this in?
Are you going to be creating anything for us? Then no.
Okay.
Right? He doesn't need
No.
Not that one, but
I did do that.
Yeah.
I did do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, developers.
Okay.
Also, we're all being recorded. FYI. Well, they have so many questions.
So DDS put together websites for the project.
How are you?
Summer cut.
Crazy.
I've been sick.
So is that they're still
I had some sort of something going on. I got bound up for a couple of days. Nice to see you. Hey Dan, I'm Joshua. I'm not sure where to put it. If I put it too close to my chest, then it starts to move a little bit. If I have one flipped to your ear and here, then you're sitting up there. What can I do for you? I know you sent me a few. Trying to, you can do it however we want. So there's like a presentation, but I can do extemporaneous videos as well. And I use just words. And I don't think about it. But yeah, you know,
He's like
yeah, I am too. Well,
and I'm also
I'm going to cut you off before we go further. Just because we have I'm certainly sending you this one, and then go wherever you're hired.
Well,
so everyone go back to
up until
there was only 9.
it was actually the only reason why 1918 was made illegal was because the pharmacies were
So I've been
up and they were using drugs because people were
driving up.
weed, which was a lot of illnesses. Weed can help with seizures, anxiety, bulimia, anorexia. It can help with certain kinds of mental disorders because it destabilizes the
So I've got burger.
I'm more like Stevens.
Okay. All right, good to see you.
And it feels like somebody's taking the response is going. Oh yeah. It's just one of those things where unless you've experienced it yourself, a lot of people don't get it unless they experience it themselves. In fact, actually, Franklin Roosevelt said, when I was a young man, I was arrogant and proud. It wasn't until I got polio that I realized I'm no better than anybody else.
Copy of your writing or draft card or whatever. That way, you can store your cut. Yeah. So that way, if you happen to lose it or something, you show up somewhere, you can just look it up.
Your focus is taking care of your ID. There's a and you're the insane. Well, that's interesting.
But hospitals won't give it to us.
Oh, no. I told him it was going to be.
I didn't know how to pronounce it with the KY. This way.
Is that weird?
Yeah, I got this one.
Every day for me is $1.
Alright, good afternoon, y'all. How's it going? Can everybody hear me all right? What? Thanks so much for coming out to the Mayor's Blockchain Challenge. I'm really excited about this weekend. I'm really excited by the turnout. I'm excited about what we're trying to achieve. I'm excited about what we're going to prove. I'm excited about the collaboration. And I'm really just extraordinarily grateful that all of you have come out today. We're going to have just maybe 20-40 minutes of kind of talking. We're going to talk a little bit about Homelessness 101 for those of you who are not exposed to the circumstances of homelessness. We're also going to have a little Blockchain 101. How many here are new to blockchain? Excellent. So we'll level up on both sides. Joshua, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I've got a little slide on that too, just to talk through some of where we are. Well, I thought I had a slide. There we go.
So Joshua has helped us out a little bit with the Austin Blockchain Collective. So he's going to do a little bit of the Blockchain 101. David, do you mind standing up? David Gomez is with Integral Care. He's going to help us out with a little Homelessness 101. Christopher, do you mind standing up? Christopher is with our Homelessness Advisory Committee of Austin. He's been advising the blockchain project for a little while now, and so he's going to give us a back and forth with David on the conditions of homelessness. If it's cool, Joshua, I thought we may start with homelessness.
Yeah, that's totally cool.
And then we'll figure out what on earth this blockchain thing can do to help us out.
No, that's
Is
fine.
that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. Do you want me to make this black? That way
Sure.
it just kind of hides out.
That'd be
and
great.
These guys can tell the story of the
And then
homelessness side.
David and Christopher and I can kind of hang out here on the road to freedom.
I think that's great. Thank you.
You're gonna love the road to freedom, right? So this is the old central library, and we were able to come here as the innovation office, and this was back in the children's section. And when they took all of the furniture away, I said, let us keep that, and they said, okay.
Well, this is a really, really comfortable way.
So, David, can you tell us a little bit about what you do with Integral Care? And what do you think that we should be talking about and getting to know our neighbors who are experiencing homelessness a little bit better?
So, my name's David Gomez, and I've been in Austin since 1973, working in community mental health and homeless kind of related stuff since '76. So it's probably longer than many of you have been, maybe, I don't know. But it is it's truly my calling, and it keeps me invigorated, and even as old as I am and having been doing it as long as I've been doing it, I still love it. And I love it because of the human beings that I get to meet. And the perseverance, the heart and the soul to continue to try and get the things that we all want and that maybe some of us have, but for whatever reason things have happened in their lives and they've not been able to get it. Dealing with them on a one-to-one basis, getting to know who they are and their individual stories, and concentrating on that one-to-one thing is the thing that helps me feel like the work is worth doing. How I feel like you guys can help with technology is that the individuals that I meet tell me who they are because I take the time to hear and to listen and to ask questions. And their answers, I remember them. I used to remember lots more than I do now. Now I have to write things down. But in order for them to get whatever resource or the next step, they have to prove who they are to whomever it is that they're asking this resource from. Whether it's their ID, their birth certificate, a library card, Social Security, all those things requires for them to prove who they are. And in our day and time, it requires a document. And they don't have a safe or a place where they can keep this or they can download it or all the rest of the stuff because there's not a safe place to store these things. And you ask them and they might be able to tell you they know their Texas driver's license number, their Social Security number, and all the rest of these numbers, but they don't have the document that proves that it is the correct thing. And because they don't get what they need. And the most frustrating thing for me is to work with somebody and to think that you got everything and then you go to the place that you're gonna get it, even maybe getting a key to an apartment, but you don't have that one document. It doesn't have the seal that they can feel. I mean, you got a copy of it, but it's not enough because they can't feel the seal and it's not real. So you have to get it, and to get it, it's going to take another 90 days. It's going to take another $150, and 1 day, 1 hour, a couple hours out in the heat is a long time, and it takes its toll. So my desire would be that who they are on paper, the documents that they need, is something that they could have control over and be able to present and have accepted as the backup for who they are. I mean, to me, they are the person that I meet, the person that I share air with, but to the resources, they need to prove that they are who they are, and having those documents somewhere where that's provable and that they have control over is wonderful. Because even as the entity that I work for, Integral Care, we have HIPAA restrictions, and I can't tell, like, even if I go with somebody to go do something, I can't say, yes, this is who he is, because I'm not allowed, or it's not accepted anyway. So when they have control over it, then you don't have to worry about HIPAA violations, because
how many here know what HIPAA is?
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you, because I don't know what the HIPPA stands for, but I know it's about health information, privacy, blah, 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 protection.
Privacy Protection Act?
There you go, something like that.
And so for those on the technical side, we will have a HIPAA judge from the He's the Associate Director of Data Integration of the Dell Medical School. Steve was just wandering around a bit. And we will have our Chief Information Security Officer here from the City of Austin. So if you have any questions about privacy and about HIPAA in your development, we'll have people on hand to give advice. Yeah, go ahead.
Two more things that I wanted to say. One is, so I know I have a friend who destroyed their phone. And it's amazing how when you lose your phone, if you guys didn't have your phone with you, would you know what your phone number was and your wife's phone number and your parents' phone number, and or can you just dial up their name and call it? Just imagine trying to keep all that in your head so that you can put it in an application all the time. It's a challenge for you to have it when your cell phone goes away. This is information that has to be carried, has to be validated, has to be something that is right there right away. Because opportunities for resources happen in our community, they're rare. And so if your name gets called and you have the opportunity to go get this housing voucher or food stamps or the money that you need to get your birth certificate, and you show up and you got something missing, and therefore you can't get it and you have to go to the end of the line, that adds to the despair and the sense of hopelessness and helplessness that a lot of the individuals that I work with have all the time. And it's not fair, it's not right, and we should be able to do something about it. And I hope we can end up with something that can address that before the end of this weekend.
And so, Christopher, we've been hanging out for a while. Christopher, when did we first meet? It was...
Well, we had there was a pocket park next to the old bakery and emporium over there.
Yeah.
And there was like an art project having to do with, I don't know what they were called, these big rainbow sculptures that had, I don't know.
Yeah, Jennifer Chenoweth.
Yeah.
And
I remember the buckwheat pancakes, that's what I was They were delicious.
And I remember that we were in a Monty Python quote-off.
Yeah, we were in a Monty Python quote-off.
And
because we were talking about...
We still have a great ambition that we're going to have street theater, a Monty Python quote-along street theater. We haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah. As soon as we get done with this stuff.
Yeah.
If we ever get done with this stuff.
So, Christopher, tell us a little bit about what you want us to know about you, and maybe what's it been like to be in the Homelessness Advisory Committee?
Well, my name's Christopher Carr. I'm from Houston originally. I graduated from the University of Texas, and I've been in Austin for about 5 years, and this 5-7 years. One of the things that happens when you're homeless is that the days run together, time ceases to mean anything, and you start thinking, why do the days of the week have different names anyway? It doesn't really matter. But anyway, I work for the Challenger Street newspaper, if any of you have heard of that, which is a street newspaper that supports informal employment for homeless people. And I can go around, and basically we're a 501c3, so I can ask people for donations without getting arrested by a PD. And apparently that's changed too, but I haven't heard anything from the horse's mouth about that. I don't know if you're familiar with Art Acevedo and Leffingwell, how they made our lives a living hell 2 years ago. Leffingwell and Acevedo, the chief of police. He's now the chief of police in Houston, where I'm from, which they can eat his lunch for all I care. And now we have Mayor Adler, who's a hell of a lot better, and Chief Manley, who was a beat officer, who was elevated to the chief of police. Things have gotten better on the street for us. But what I wanted all these people to understand is that homeless people in Austin, we feel like we exist in a different dimension. Like we are an underclass of people, and we're kind of congruent with the same underclass of people that have existed in the United States since the beginning, if you follow me on that. Like we feel like that I can't get a shake. I'm up against the automated implicit bias of a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people have a very, I wanted to make a coffee table book of all the dirty looks I get on the street. Get a big 8x10 glossies of dirty looks of house people, because I don't know why they do that. People tell me I don't look particularly homeless, but I still get dirty looks from people, of people that automatically size me up if I have, if my pants are dirty because I've been wearing the same pair of pants for 3 days, that kind of thing. A lot of people don't understand homelessness in this culture the way that they used to. And the way it is now, I can't believe that there are a lot of people who are elderly are on the street, people who are visually impaired, people who have hearing impairments, and it's like, what happened to this country? Because I grew up in a country where disabled people were taken care of unilaterally. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but disabled people used to get a fair shake. Elderly people used to get a fair shake. And now when you see someone who's catastrophically or profoundly disabled living on the street, it makes you think something has happened to the United States. And if you're on the business end of being homeless, you really feel like something has happened to the United States where I'm not a citizen of this culture, and I'm discriminated against and mistreated. And the next article I'm writing for the Challenger is called A Tale of Two Financial Institutions, because I was profiled by the security guard at Wells Fargo, and then I felt like I was like I'm a bad person. I'm not doing anything, and I'm still being mistreated by the security staff at this bank. And then every Monday, Friday, I can go over to the Capital One Cafe and get a free cup of coffee and be treated like a king. And they don't treat me badly over there. And I bring my friends over there and like, when are they going to start mistreating us? And I said, never. They said, I'm always welcome here, even on days when the coffee isn't free. That's how they are. This is a financial institution that's trying to upend banking. And if there's one industry that's more against homelessness in Austin, it would be banking and the people who are in the Chamber of Commerce, who talk to the mayor all the time about blunt heads passed out on 6th Street. Are any of you familiar with that? This conundrum that the police are dealing with.
Before you go there.
Oh, okay.
Tell me a little bit, have you...
And thank you for keeping me on task,
Sure.
because I can spin out of control.
Have you ever tried to apply for disability?
I've tried to through Troxel, and when I first got here thinking that he was an attorney, but he's apparently a paralegal, but he can help you get disability. I just went in there and he put me on the defensive immediately.
Yeah.
And getting disability is kind of like, it's kind of difficult. It's difficult to do it on your own, and it helps to have an attorney who can show you the ins and outs of the application process. So
is there anybody else here who's ever applied for disability? Greg, what's it like?
For me, mine's medical, and it's going to be a year next month. And they're telling me that unless I'm literally homeless or if I'm dying, that's the only way the process will speed up. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's like you already have your medical chart, your medical report. Why not do the right thing? But the lawyer is telling me that it's a backlog and this, that, and the other, and just be patient. But at the same time, they don't want you to work, because if Social Security find out that you even grab anything part-time, that they will disqualify you, which is not right, because you still have to survive while you're waiting. And you caught between a rock and a hard place, because you know what bills you have. For me, like I pay child support. That's just, them people are not going to wait. So I have to find little jobs up under the table. Sometimes they pay what I want, sometimes they don't, but I have to take them in order to survive. Now, when I went and applied, they told me, they said, well, one of the things, a qualification, is that you have to pay into the system. Well, I have. I did like 20 some odd years in different jobs and whatnot. But because of my medical, I can't get it right away, which is wrong. Because some people who have no work history at all, they're getting it like clockwork, which is not right. But that's the extent of that.
Yeah. Who wants to talk about the paperwork? All the papers that you got to hold on to. And what it's like when you lose it. What you got?
Basically, it's not easy, especially when in this time period, I've lived all over the country, and I've been homeless before in other states. But Austin goes out of its way, if they realize that you're homeless, they'll go out of their way to use you as an example of, oh, well, they didn't have this paperwork, they didn't have that paperwork. I'm still fighting with them 15 years later to get my DD-214 and get my veterans benefits because of the fact that I did a name change 10 years ago. And I didn't submit the name change paperwork this time, but they have 5 sets of my name change paperwork already with my fingerprints on it. And a lot of, I mean, Austin does have a lot more to offer than, say, Minnesota, where if you're homeless, you live in a porta potty. They have no services, no housing programs, no shelters. Here, they have shelters, but they're places you go if you want to get your drug on, or if you want to get into fights, or if you want to get your alcohol. You're more likely to find drugs and alcohol in a homeless shelter than you are in a pharmacy. And a lot of people don't realize that in this country, the majority of us are homeless. Our economy isn't what it used to be. We're not backed by gold, we're not backed by silver, we're running on a paper that's basically recycled denim, and we owe billions to other countries, but we haven't figured out that if it wasn't for that, we'd actually have a system that worked. But we spend more time focusing on paperwork, on, you know, this, that, and the third, and where does it get us? We haven't gotten anywhere in the last 15, 20 years where other countries have fixed like that.
So one of the things I wanted to say is that some of the stuff that I do in the work that I do is to help people fill out their application for Social Security benefits, whether it's disability or Social Security. And just FYI, every single time a person has been hospitalized, you have to get that record. Yeah. So not only do you have to have somebody remember every time that they were hospitalized, what city, what hospital, was there an attending physician, do you remember their name? Because you're going to have to do the research and then put in a request for them to send you the paperwork. And then you get the paperwork, and then you begin to create this file that you have to submit to the Social Security office. And I have had a box that you go buy you know, with like 10 reams of paper, that big, that heavy, that still is on like 5 years out of this person's life. And unless you have it all, they won't accept it. And if you send it, but somehow one of the papers wasn't copied right or wasn't faxed correctly, then you're gonna have to submit it again. And how beautiful it would be if we could just say, will this hospital please email my records to this place so that they can have it all, and then it's electronic. Because the backlog that we hear about is also that when you send that amount of paper to the Social Security office, one, you have to pay for it to get mailed. And then the second thing is when it gets there, where are they going to put it? And how long will it take before they can get to it? And how long will it take for them to go page by page to read it and figure it out, where they could, I think, electronically, I don't know how to do that, but they could pick certain words and say, does it satisfy this criteria, that criteria, the other, and they could go through it much quicker and be able to get people the support that they could get. It is not easy to put together an application like that.
So one of the things we're trying to do here today is, and this weekend, is help people hold on to their identity and try to set in motion a system that could be tracking some of these documents over the history and of the medical experience that they have. We submitted an application to Bloomberg Philanthropies about last October, and we were one of 35 cities who was given the opportunity to test and prototype our ideas. So the first thing we did back in April is we went into a pop-up resource clinic where a bunch of different agencies offering mental health care, primary care, the Central Health with the Medical Access Program card. A bunch of agencies were there to help people experiencing homelessness. And we asked a couple of people if a concept like this would be useful. And people pretty immediately said yes. If we could have something like this, it would make our lives a lot easier. So with that hunch, we kept moving forward to figure out how we might test and prototype the use of blockchain in this circumstance. This weekend, we want to either prove or disprove that blockchain would be a useful technology for this. The Bloomberg Philanthropies Foundation has a really great panel of judges, a lot of whom have a lot of experience in a lot of different industries, including the former head of the Office of Management and Budget at the federal level. And they were very excited to hear about this idea and to hear about Austin's capability to organize around blockchain. What Bloomberg is looking for is for an idea that could scale. So we heard Minnesota doesn't have a very good system. People read a lot about LA and Seattle and San Francisco's challenges with homelessness. On the panel of judges, we're going to have the Texas Homelessness Network. If we come up with something that has promise and can scale, we have an avenue to be able to do that. Once we gather the evidence from this weekend, we're going to submit it in our grant application to Bloomberg Philanthropies, which is due on August 20th. And we're in competition with the other cities, but we'll have an opportunity to win $1 million or $5 million for implementation of a working idea. So what we're after this weekend is proof, evidence, and we tried to structure some flexible but maybe pointed requirements that you can work with. And one of the things we saw in terms of hacking the system, because I don't have access to the Social Security Administration, and I don't have access to Texas Department of Public Safety, is to start working with the document itself and thinking about the metadata that goes around the document itself. And all of us do have the experience of going to get our driver's license, and they usually want a primary bit of documentation. They want a secondary bit of documentation if you don't have the primary, or maybe they need a couple of secondary and some supporting documents. So I thought to myself, that serves as a really nice design pattern. Every piece of document we have about our personal identity, about our economic identity, about our health identity, usually has some form of primary, secondary, or supporting documentation. And then we thought, well, can we validate it? If I could get Texas DPS online, could they just submit an ID directly to somebody's blockchain? It's coming from the source, it's validated. Or maybe I can't, but when David sees them, he can look at the ID and verify, I've seen the thing, it's got a raised seal. I will accept it, and by accepting it, it becomes verified on the application, on the platform. So those are some of the thoughts that we had about structuring a particular solution. We also thought about, let's see if we can do 5 minimum things. 1, get one asset, a document, validated. Get one asset / document verified. Get 2 out of 3 packages, either the Medical Access Program card, the SOAR application, or a housing package. Get a couple of documents uploaded and say, you've got 2 out of 10 documents for this package. I don't need all the documents, but let's just demonstrate that we could roll these documents up into a package. And that person would be able to tell, is your package complete or not complete? With the medical access card, for example, it may expire within 6 months. So Central Health has said, we'd like to be able to let the person know that their card has expired. And so that could be a smart contract. So the 4th quality is we'd like to get a smart contract, maybe an expiry or a % complete. And then the 5th thing, if we can get there, we'd like to run some scenarios with 5 entities. We'll make them up. We have a list of entities, but they can be any entities. Because the other thing that we know is after you accumulate some transactions, you're going to have a different value in this platform. And I'd like to see if we can demonstrate the art of the possible. What happens when you've run a series of transactions with folks? What does that amount to? What kind of metrics do we get out of it? And if you want to have a sense of what it's really like for service providers or for people experiencing homelessness at any point during your time of developing, we've got a couple of bits of inspiration from you. The Innovation Office has an I-team that has been doing about 6 months worth of qualitative research and interviews with both service providers and people experiencing homelessness. I grabbed some quotes from that research and we've put them up on boards back there. So if you want to get a little bit into their headspace, you can get that there. We will also have people whom you've met here today. They will be here tomorrow and on Sunday. You can test with them, you can prototype with them, listen to them, ask them questions. We had a service design hustle for homelessness back in June, and it was really great. Everybody had great visions of what was possible, and then folks who actually have experience on the street let them know exactly what was really possible and what was not really possible. And so at some point in this weekend, we want you to dig deeper, because whatever assumption you had walking in here, they'll blow it out of the water for you and they'll tell you what life is really like. And that's, we want to have that reality check here for you. The judging panel will include people experiencing homelessness. It'll include someone from IBM Design. So if you think about people who are on the streets who may have disabilities, they may have cognitive disabilities, they may have mental disabilities, they may be visually impaired. Our visual design has to be really uncomplicated. Our service providers are very, very busy. They don't have the best tools for collaborating across their networks. They have usually their enterprise tool, but not one to go across to different organizations. And they're hustling every day at a very low salary, and so we need to make their lives easier as well. So user experience design is going to be an issue, and we want to keep it as simple as possible. We will also have a blockchain expert on the panel. The mayor will be on the judging panel. Christopher and Stephen Potter, where are you? Stephen will be on the panel. So we'll have people asking some very basic questions that we pulled from the blockchain. Does that work? Oh, look at that, technology. So my apologies for the late start. Paper, the bane of my existence, and the reason we are here today. Welcome to the Mayor's Blockchain Challenge. My name is Carrie O'Connor. I'm the City of Austin's Chief Innovation Officer, and I couldn't be more proud of the thing that we've done here together this weekend as a community, working with our neighbors to make sure that everybody has a fulfilling life and can get access to the things that they need for quality of life. We have the opportunity with Bloomberg Philanthropies to come together as a community and win $1 to $5 million to implement a solution to help our neighbors experiencing homelessness break the chains of bureaucracy. The Austin Blockchain Collective, a lot of members of the technology industry, the design industry, and the social service providers, as well as the city, have come together this weekend to see if we can figure out how best to use blockchain to help people hold on to their documents and their identity that they will need to get access to services. With this weekend, we are building a body of evidence to prove or disprove that blockchain can be used for this purpose, and the evidence that we collect here today from our panel of judges and from the audience, we will be using to submit a grant application to Bloomberg Philanthropies that will be due by August 20th. We have a number of really tremendous teams here today. But before we get into the pitches, I want you to understand a little bit about the nature of the problem if you're in the audience and you're new to what we're trying to achieve here. Back on the boards, if you've been able to walk through the innovation office here, we have a number of bits of paperwork that people have to earn, gain, collect in order to get access to services. One piece of the package in order to get a disability award from the Social Security Administration is 24 pages long, and that's just one piece of a multifaceted package that includes 15 years of your medical history, which some service providers have told me could be crates of documents. If you don't have a home, it's really hard to hold on to those documents. Heck, it's hard for any of us to hold on to our medical documents. which is why the Dell Medical School, the Center for Data Integration, has come together with the City of Austin to try to see if this blockchain solution is something that can help with better data integration around our community, no matter what service you're trying to access. And so I think this is what's really important, is that one of the values the City of Austin Innovation Office brings is if you solve for the user who needs it most, you really solve for all of us. The solutions that we look at here today are not just for our neighbors experiencing homelessness. They should be something that all of us can take advantage of, because we never know when we might need to access these documents and not have the ability to do so. If you have ever gone, which I'm sure many of us have, to get your driver's license, you know that you have a number of primary documents, a number of secondary documents, and a number of supporting documents that you need in order to prove your identity. But that's just who you are. You also have an economic identity. You also have a health identity. You also have a criminal or social justice identity. There's a lot of facets to who we are that help us get access to homes, that access to jobs, access to financial stability. And that's what this is about. Can we develop a design pattern of how to hold on to these documents and help people navigate the complex bureaucracies that get us access to how to get back on our feet and do well in the world? The teams that formed this weekend, some of them took that on earnestly, and you will see that they worked really hard to establish the design pattern that we set out before them, that we want one person to be able to upload a document. We want maybe an authorized individual to look at that document and verify that it is real. I touched the raised seal of the birth certificate, and I can verify that I am using this birth certificate to get them access to services. We might be able to convince Texas Public Safety to join the network, or perhaps Vital Records to join the network. So I also want to know if the document comes directly from the source, then that's validated. I don't even need to have another piece of eyeballs on it. It came directly from the source. But then we want to know can that person choose to share that document with a service provider seamlessly? So that's the third hurdle. What then we'd like to be able to do is show how many different people in the network can I gain access to, and can I learn how to navigate the services? Because you have these documents uploaded, you have 25% of your housing package complete, or 30% of your medical access program package complete. One of the things that some service providers have told us is that they spend a tremendous amount of time and run around trying to collect these documents, then they get lost. They've got to go find them again. Then we've also heard from people experiencing homelessness. I don't know what to do next. I don't know where to go. This is very confusing. In order to stay in the shelter, I need a TB test. What do you mean? When's the TB test office open? It's not open today? Well, then where am I going to stay tonight? And we've learned from our folks experiencing homelessness that being homeless is a full-time job. And so we really, really need to start making it easier in order for them to get what they need and to get back on their feet in the way that they want to live in this world. So, thanks. Some of the teams said, however, very pointedly, I'm trolling you, blockchain dudes. I don't think that blockchain is necessary. And that is also okay, because we told the teams we need to prove or disprove that blockchain is part of the solution here. And so we welcomed teams to step up to that challenge. So you may hear some teams talk directly about how blockchain isn't necessary. And then furthermore, you have some other teams that have said, I actually have another technology solution that's far more needed to meet the needs now. It doesn't involve blockchain, and it doesn't involve complicated disability applications or whatever other crazy bureaucracy you guys have put together. This is just about connecting people to services. And so we welcome that as well. So on your scorecards, the judges have scorecards who can speak to blockchain, not blockchain, but there's one question that just about everybody has is, does this solution provide value to someone experiencing homelessness, and then by extension, to all of us as a community? So that is one question that we would also like to answer. We'll be handing out audience scorecards, so you're welcome to follow along. Any scorecard that you want to fill out, please put the team name on it, and then for the judges, we'll be coming around after each team, grabbing your scorecards, and then filling out the tabulation. The winner of this challenge is able to get $2,000 for your time here this weekend. The runner-up will get $1,000 for your time here this weekend. But all of you have my undying gratitude for for showing up as a community. It has given me goosebumps on a number of occasions to have so many people from so many different walks of life rallying around this cause. And no matter whether or not we win this Bloomberg Mayor's Challenge, we have already won. We've already won. Because what happens here today is not stopping. This train keeps going. So thank you all so much for showing up. I'm going to introduce our judging panel. Perhaps I can just have you each announce your name and what perspective you're representing on the judging panel today. So Steve, start with you.
My name is Stephen Potter. I am an homeless advocate. I am co-founder of the Gathering Ground Theater Troupe. I am a member of the larger Homes Not Handcuffs Coalition. I am also a member of HACA, the Homelessness Advisory Committee of Austin.
Stephen Andrews. I'm on the data integration team at the Dell Medical School, and as such, I'm bringing a concern with security and HIPAA compliance.
I'm Paul Snow. I'm the CEO of Factum, a blockchain company here in town focusing on data applications on the blockchain. I also am the chair of the Texas Bitcoin Conference and contributors to projects like Ethereum.
Hi, my name is Phil Gilbert. I run design for IBM, and I'm here as the design judge.
I'm Kit Abney-Speltz. I'm with Central Health, and I'm here representing the CERC.
And my name is Christopher Carr. I'm like Stephen, I'm a member of the HACA committee. I'm also on a lived experience consultant on Carrie's blockchain initiative. And I also am a writer-distributor for The Challenger, which is the street newspaper in Austin, which is an informal employment for homeless people.
You know, I'm here because as mayor, you get invited to the coolest places in the city at any point in time, and this is about as cool as Austin gets. You know, the city council has gone through its first ever strategic planning process. Kind of embarrassing to actually have to say out loud that it's the first time the city council's ever done that, but it's good that we've done this and are in the process of doing it to align the city, setting priorities and in ways that we have never done before as a council to align the council and the staff and the community. Hard to make choices when you set priorities because so many things are so important. But for this group at this time, I think it's important just to note that the council, having gone through a process of about a year that's continuing, identified supporting folks in our community that are experiencing homelessness as our #1 priority. And I think that reflects the community sentiment and community will. This is a challenge that so many communities are facing, including ours. It is about supporting a population of about 7,000 to 8,000 people a year that intersect, which is a number in our community that is both way too large, but at the same time a number that is one that we can in fact lead. We can in fact help and support. There are so many things that are going right in this city. Our Achilles heel in this city is making sure that it reaches to everyone in our city, because that doesn't happen by accident, and it doesn't necessarily happen through the normal forces and powers that just operate in the city. So I want to thank everybody for participating. There is a wide range of people that are involved in this, that see this challenge and this opportunity from so many different perspectives. I want to thank Carrie for the work that your office has done. And as I was saying to folks earlier, you know, I get calls all the time from other mayors, from other cities, from media around the country and around the world. Most recently, it concerns this from the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. I'm not sure there's anything that the city's involved in that has generated as much specific attention as this project, because the need is so great and the perceived potential so real. So I just want to thank everybody for the time and effort, and the perspective, the wisdom that everyone has to share from their perspective and participate. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Kevin Williams. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for the City of Austin. So I'm here to focus on the privacy, transparency, accountability angle, not just on protecting the information that we'll be storing, but making sure that it's used for the purposes that it's intended to be used for. On a personal note, I'm a 4th generation enlisted disabled veteran, so the intersectionality between veterans issues and social issues is one of a personal interest of mine.
So,
By Compass, Digital Town, SAM, Lily Pond Project paid for, and wrapping up with Safety Net.
Great. So, transmute.
How many presentations are we getting? 7?
7.
So just a reminder, teams, 5 minutes for your presentation. At the 4-minute mark, I'll give you a 1-minute warning so we can move into Q&A. Same for Q&A so we can move to the next team. Thanks, guys.
All right, cool.
Oh, that's a really good point.
You just get up.
I can do slides. Okay, I'll get that here.
Details.
Whose strength is this? Is this yours? There you go, right? Just point.
Perfect. All right, so our team here at Transmute, these guys have a background in development, programming, as well as security. My background is in product management and social work. I actually worked in homeless services in Austin, so this challenge was particularly interesting to me. Go ahead.
Next team.
All right, so we wanted to start out by grounding ourselves in the problem. We've already gotten a little bit of that this morning, kind of coming back to the why. But for us, this was really important in thinking about how to design for this challenge. So we heard a lot of information from folks in the room who are directly experiencing homelessness, people on the advisory council, as well as providers. These are some quotes that we heard over the last 48 hours or so around this challenge of documents being stolen, and also the inability to use a digital document that's not verified in some way as a valid source for receiving services. So things we heard were things like, I'm fighting for benefits, the runaround breaks trust, and if those opportunities for resources are rare, you don't want to miss that because you walked in with the wrong or didn't have the right document. And on the service provider side, that idea of like, I need to feel the seal to know this is the correct document so I can move forward with my process. And also I have to trust that it's verified in some form. So we decided to narrow in on 2 specific aspects of this problem for the purpose of this challenge. The first one is that people experiencing homelessness really need a secure and trusted place in a digital form to keep important documents that are fundamental to their identity. We heard this from the folks in the room who outlined this as something that would be important for their experience. And also those digital documents need to have a verification process so that they can eventually be accepted and trusted as a form of just as valid as the original source. So you're not walking around with a folder with your birth certificate and social security number that gets stolen, and now you have a year plus expenses of replacing those documents. So our solution is a user-friendly web app. So this is a tool that can be used on an iPad in a clinic or on an individual's cell phone. So a person experiencing homelessness controls their documents and their ability to share that information out. They're the #1 person we're designing for, and other people can be secondary users, but we're taking a very client-centered approach to this solution. They can also seamlessly add, organize, share, and invite service providers to verify that those documents are in fact theirs and associated with their identity. The blockchain piece does come into our solution in a somewhat smaller way. We're not storing documents on a blockchain, but we're using it as a tool, as an audit log, to be able to allow people to sign in using something like their face and a PIN instead of using a private key that they have to remember. And then also creating the concept of trusted authority agents, aka case managers inside of partner organizations, who can verify that a document is in fact associated with someone, and then we can use that verification as just as valuable as the original source. Okay, so this is where we started yesterday morning. We came in and sat down and got to chat with people like Greg and Donna and Chris and others who have lived experience and were more than willing to share their perspectives on the challenges and also a lot of the lack of trust that exists in this space. So we started our design really from the ground up, laying out on a whiteboard, here's what we think this application might look like for people experiencing homelessness. Here's what this digital wallet called MyPass might look like. And then we had everyone come by and tell us all the reasons that we needed to modify it and add other considerations. So that eventually ended up turning into a prototype, which we tested out with many of the folks who are sitting here in the room. A few screens from that I can walk you through are an individual being able to come and sign into this application. So if you're a person experiencing homelessness and you're using this as a digital wallet, you can come sign in by taking your picture, and there's face recognition, entering a 4-digit PIN. We're also providing other opportunities for alternative ways to enter this information if you prefer not to use your face or that PIN. And then coming into a dashboard where you can keep track of your documents and add new documents, as well as invite people who are your case manager, for example, to verify that a document is associated with you. So this is an example of uploading a driver's license, tagging it with metadata, indicating an expiration date, which is helpful information when you're trying to keep track of your information, and then inviting that trusted authority case manager, maybe it's someone at the Social Security office in the future, or someone at Central Health, to actually come in and go through a similar sign-in process so they can put their stamp on your document as being verified. We're going to give you a very quick live demo now.
That's 5 minutes. We can move the Q&A. Okay, so do you want me to skip through this Q&A? Please. All right. Yeah. So these are the criteria that we attempted to address, and we have some key metrics. These are, the things that you want to make sure you're meeting to decide whether or not this is valuable. Thank you. And there's a live demo. Yeah.
Can I see your live demo?
Come up afterwards, and I will give you a live demo.
Your blockchain is Ethereum?
Yeah, so, yep, the blockchain is Ethereum. The primary identity source are public.
Just these are lines I have to fill out, is largely doing audit logs.
Yeah, so the only smart contract interface that we have as part of the code developed over this weekend supports the audit log functionality. We have tests for showing that the identities can send and receive Ether, which provides payment opportunities. But yeah, the only smart contract that's in existence is for the audit log.
So if the and maybe some of the metadata is in the blockchain, but if I upload a picture, who is hosting that database, and how is the linkage between the verification that's in the blockchain? How do I know that that's actually the picture that was verified?
Right. So in this sort of example that we have, we put a solution from a security perspective. Like Margot mentioned, you want to add many factors to improve the security of that. That being said, the biometric authentication pieces are stored in Azure. All are encrypted messages, and those are encrypted by the user's identity, either for themselves or for the intended recipient.
So how do I know if you've taken a picture of your driver's license and somebody from DPS says, yeah, that's a valid driver's license? How do I know that that picture isn't corrupted in the database that's not controlled by blockchain?
So the integrity of the file is the thing that the blockchain is managing. So it's just like any other system with a digital picture,
like some sort of checksum.
Yeah, that's right. It's just it's basic hashing and digital signatures.
And final question for me is, what research do you have that a smartphone app is actually usable by many or most of our homeless population?
Right.
Maybe it is. I don't know the answer.
That's a really good question.
That's why we created a prototype to test with the folks who volunteer their time or
are in the room and actually asking, would this be a usable tool? The primary use case for this weekend, we're thinking about having iPads in partner organizations. This being a tool that you could sit down with your case manager or social worker and actually
on a mobile device or a web application. The authentication sign-in piece for multiple roles would be the same for both of them, and the digital signatures for verifying and certifying documents are all also the same. So they come from the same kind of identity. But the idea is that there would be like a kiosk at specific trusted locations.
But you did put the information in the cloud so that's useful.
What's that?
You did put the data in the cloud so that you can actually do the kiosk.
The application is live right now, and so you could pull it up on an iPad right here. I can show it to you afterward.
Well, I'm just saying it's not on the phone.
It's not stored on the device, which is what you want because the device can be stolen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as a service provider, do I get a login with my organization? And
There's not enough time to get through. I mean, you want to be like, hey, this guy has background in cybersecurity, he skills watching, he's working with me to help. And then like, okay, maybe there's different questions for public people. We're going to that could be. Should be okay.
We don't have equity.
You can be the guardian. All right, I think we're ready to get started with the next presentation. So quick announcement for the audience members. If you don't have a feedback form, just ask some staff here for a form, because we do want your input. However, the questions, we want to limit them to the judges right now, so we can evaluate. We can give them some time to evaluate. So that said, you guys good?
We're ready.
All right, let's roll.
Okay, hi, there's no time to waste. We're going to jump right in. Our team is called Compass. And really, just to quickly describe us, we see the deepest issue here is being one of trust. So hence the image of trust here, and our desire really to use this as a basis for improving quality of life for all residents. So we want to begin with a quick story. On Friday, we met a guy named Tony, and we learned from him that proof of identity is really a serious issue. He was taking him 2 years to recover his IDs. He had nothing, and he told us about a certain hack you could do and get discharge papers from the ER. It just really illustrated this issue of proof of identity being key for someone experiencing homelessness. So the ability to electronically manage your documents in case of loss, one way or another, theft, simple kind of overtime attrition as you lose things, as papers get torn or ripped or what have you, or stained. Loss one way or another, that's really integral from the PEH perspective. From a provider perspective, you need to validate clients and assume, or rather ensure that they're eligible for the services you can provide. You need to do that as quickly as possible. So our two real tenets here are ease of use and low friction. So that's what we're going for, to make it easy to access services and to provide those services. So why use a blockchain? Why not just do a distributed database? Why not do something that exists already? And it really comes down to these things up here. It's really about a sense of agency for the people who are involved, for the person to always have control over his or her own data, so that at all times it's under your control. You explicitly grant permission to whomever's going to view it, and you have control over it such that nobody can ever take it away from you or use it in a negative way against you. And in line with that, it's kept secure by the decentralization of a blockchain. Nobody can deny you rights to access rights to your own data. Nobody can, as it says here, you're going to keep it secure by having it distributed. The metadata is what's viewable by providers. The document is always under your control, and that's kept on a database. And it's encrypted end-to-end, again, just homing in on the idea of it being yours alone, and something that no one is going to be able to use to target you, track you, or at a later date, do something you may not want them to do. So again, we're helping a user manage and control documents digitally while at the same time ensuring that they can easily go to a service provider and get the support that they need, while actually giving them the contact information and the direction to get there, because we know how vital it is to actually get somewhere. If you hand somebody a map, they're 10 times more likely to actually go to that place. And again, quickly verifying those IDs and expediting the process. There's just a lot of hassle in recovering lost documents, wasting time, forms being submitted incorrectly and having to redo things. We're trying to get rid of a lot of redundancy. And to quickly get through this, well, just to highlight, this is what we're using. It's effectively what you need to do a cross-functional, cross-platform web app. So there's a database involved, and we are using Factom for the blockchain aspect of it. We tackled the map card and applying for housing. So we kept a limited scope, but within that we're doing some rather complex things. And you can just look at the Post-it notes over there if you like. That's the simplest part, but it's still pretty complex. So this is what we're actually doing here, the MyPass wallet. This is all the various things we're doing here, the solution diagram. And again, accessible anywhere, tablet, phone, what have you, desktop at the library, whatever it is, to control and access your data, to understand the available resources and how to actually get access to them. And now we're going to jump into a demo. Here. So this is kind of the home screen you have here. We have the various documents you might have. And the first thing, let's make it over here. The first thing is actually the color here. This banner at the top is to indicate these are valid, these are unexpired. This would be expired. This traffic light is intentional here with the red light, green light, and yellow light. And this is expiring soon.
1 minute.
Okay. Resources tell you exactly how to get there, where it is, phone number, contact information, and so forth. Back to slides. So what we learned is that we're assuming trust, which may or may not be there. There's oftentimes an adversarial relationship between entities and individuals. And this continual threat of loss. There are a lot of privacy concerns, but using the blockchain really does alleviate a lot of those, as well as security concerns. And the ability to delete is also a part of what we did.
Time. Can we move the Q&A, please?
Are you using a biometric for login? Beginners are using a biometric key coordinated with another form of login?
We're using a username and password to kind of obviate the need for all of that stuff. We don't want a biometric thing like a facial scan or a selfie or a thumbprint. You don't necessarily trust the entities who are going to have access to that. So we're kind of stepping away from that, limiting our scope to just the problem we were given for the weekend. Future work on this would get into that.
Also, I mean, it removes the idea of self-sovereignty. If you have to use an authority to convert your fingerprint into your key, then they're the authority. You're not the authority.
Yeah.
So if you take it very seriously in terms of blockchain, you have to not use that.
So if you have a biometric, that's what you're saying, a biometric coordinated with some other form of login, then somebody else would have access to your.
Right. Someone else would be able.
We tried to approach self-sovereignty as a primary.
And you want to keep this across the line. Okay.
Yes.
You mentioned
A lot of different paths to take. So the diagram right before this shows how all the events aren't really connected, but the app sort of is supposed to mean to thread them together to get a cohesive workflow for the user. And that's really the smart contract aspect of it too. We use a formal mathematical model to achieve this, and that's how we compose the data to put it on the blockchain.
So as a service provider, am I entering in dates to verify, the termination of a map? Do I have my own login and
We didn't design that far, but generally we're assuming that we'll connect our API to your API somehow, and hopefully we can trigger that event through our system.
And is that how your service locations are being, who's managing?
That's
who's keeping
static
that
data,
record?
like contact information. That's not a directive you're sending to the end user. It's more of like an informational discovery.
But then do I have to then update if I open a new office location? Or
Yeah,
I
and actually the way that we're using the event flow is we pop a new event on there, and we basically designed to always continually update itself. Is how we would address that. So it's not necessarily you, but somebody, some other source is appending that to our chain.
I think it was interesting that you all identified that trust was the real foundational issue we're dealing. Trust is going to be the most interesting design concept around blockchain solutions. And you see it manifest in your app, though. Like, what it looked like in any app. Is there anything that you did or you intend to do that communicates trust kind of here instead of just here to the user?
Yeah. We probably left it out of the slides. One of the concepts we were trying to hit home was this idea of a web of trust. So if there's an individual that you can trust, and if they trust another person, there's sort of a transitive property there where you could begin to trust the wider system.
And that would be made less opaque than it seemed to be?
So, yeah, hopefully. So each actor in the system essentially has their own chain of data. So when I authenticate his chain, I'm basically adding an entry to mine that says I trust his.
Yep.
And that's really hard to illustrate in a slide, but hopefully we can do a better job of building some more
Is this summarized in the green bars, effectively?
Effectively. Some that, because they just need to understand.
But it's very opaque.
And
Yeah.
on that, it has to be summarized into just like a bar for the user. And I'm kind of an inside guy. The architecture you have for your workflow allows multiple parties to coordinate.
Yes.
And allows them to design their own processes and still maintain.
Your ideal is somebody could just take all the stateful data from the blockchain and do exactly what we're doing. So if we evaporated, somebody could pick up where we left off and do the exact same thing.
We've run out of time for Q&A. Thanks, Compass.
Disagree with you about the communication trust. I'm sorry. Disagree with you about the communication trust. That's not what they said. They should get trust somehow. Right. Absolutely not complexity. Just I was wondering if they had.
Well, we can talk more about it, but I'm cheating a little in space too much. So.
I'm going to my fellow homeless and say, look, this is a system you can trust. That's my, that's my authority, that's my authority.
Sorry, I didn't know you were ready.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking right is good, left is bad.
Some of the questions are reverse of the number. What we intended was for the number 4 to be the best answer. Okay, good.
and I don't even know what to do with this.
Contributing to that school.
That I can talk about, but then as a team.
Don't worry about the notes.
On Facebook.
I can tell jokes. Mostly dad jokes though, so they're not funny. Yeah, dad jokes.
One really big one.
Judges ready?
I'm Frank Robles. We're Team Digital Town. We approached this project in earnest with great sincerity and seriousness.
We did a tremendous amount of homework in advance. We read all the documentation. In fact, I've been a serial volunteer for probably 2 decades now, so got a lot of experience firsthand as well. Our team, go to the next slide. Myself, organizer, solution designer. We developed a solution that's less prospective and more reality today. There's a couple of points that are prospective, but the rest of it actually functions. James, on the team as well, co-designer, lead developer, amazing innovator, also a UT student. And Jerry, he's back there filming. He's an intern for the summer from North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Next slide. The platform, of course, we chose blockchain. We do a lot of blockchain work. Why did we use it? I think it's clearly the best solution for this problem. The way I see it is we've got n number of users, n number of providers with n number of documents. That's n cubed, times the number of transactions, that's n. We have this mesh of interconnected things that really requires a blockchain kind of solution. Next slide. These are sort of the meat and potatoes of this challenge. We chose to do the map card and the store application. Why we chose the map card is it aligned with some of the technical things we're trying to do in the overall solution. The challenge there was time. Doing this beginning Friday, working till the late night Friday and then all night last night. Just not enough time to do a good job. I think we've done a fair job. The SOAR application, one of the reasons why we chose that is we wanted to perfect the file upload capability. So both providers and authenticated individuals can upload documents. So that helped us there. And the elements we started with were driver's license and social security. It's really not limited to that, but that got us going. Next slide. Our solution. So our solution is a little bit unique. This is one of the ideas we came up with. Knowing the reality that people who are homeless often don't have a smartphone. And we do have a smartphone app. It functions. We tested it yesterday. We can create these cards, and actually, if you have a smartphone, you can interact with them equally on our blockchain. But we created these ID cards, and we actually got feedback for some who wanted a smaller version, so we created a smaller version. You like that? So the cool thing is it lets you send and receive money. So that's authenticated for person to person who have the accounts. We tested this yesterday. We signed up 5 people, and we did sending and receiving money. It works great. But you're just using a piece of paper, just a QR code. It's linked back to your account, of course. We wrote an account creation application. So we take the person's name, their password, their email address, and a PIN number. So if you want to pay with money, you have to enter a PIN number. If you want to send a document, you enter a PIN number. So it's 2-factor. You have the physical document, and you have a PIN. So that's kind of interesting. And if this gets lost or this gets lost, it's easily replaced. You can go to a service provider, a library, anywhere we have a printer, log in, and replace it, print out another one. It's not going to kill you. You can also make another QR code if you want. It's just a click, about 2 clicks in our application. This works now. Also for providers, for documents, this is a document control situation. So they can actually put documents to the QR code. You can walk into a facility, they can scan your code. They're already authenticated, they're logged in. They can put a document to you. You can actually share documents with them. Next slide. So this is it in action. We were printing these things out yesterday. And we have the phone app, just giving a demonstration of that. Next slide. So one thing that came up is password recovery. So we have a password recovery solution that works now. So it's a normal thing that you're using a password, but for a homeless person particularly, they're not going to remember that. It gets lost. And so the reality, and this is a prospective aspect of our solution, is we can actually take attestation from other parties that this document existed, that this person's ID is true, and allow through the multiple party attestation, verified parties, they can gain access to their account. So it's kind of a unique solution. It doesn't function yet, but we figured out how to do it last night. Test results. So our results, we did money, we do that, 2-factor, sending and receiving documents, 2-factor, happy customers. Next slide. Happy customers. So go to the next slide.
You mentioned a social security number.
Yes.
Is that being stored on the ledger?
No, a reference to it is a hash reference and storage to it. It's an encrypted hash reference. The document is stored for financial transactions, that's in the Netherlands. For the documents, that's stored at AWS in Seattle.
How does this work with giving it third-party
You show your QR code and a PIN number. And in advance, they would have had to authorize which documents they want to share before doing that. They'd have to go to a computer and click on those documents. I don't have, we can do the percentage document completion thing. I can make a slide theorizing about that. I'm showing you stuff that actually works now.
Exactly which blockchain?
For which part?
Okay, which blockchains are you using?
Well, for the account creation.
What was the feeling from those with lived experience about the QR code carrying around?
I got a lot of positive feedback. I mean, lots of positive feedback. Some like the big factor. I'm thinking of going, so this is 4x6, I'm thinking 3x5 might be better. Some preferred, the business card style, like an ID card. And I think this makes sense. I mean, I don't think this is almost only solution. I would use this with my medical doctor. I mean, it's keep my check and my documents.
But there wasn't a sense of, because part of the challenge we're trying to get to is people lose their MAP cards.
Right.
So they can go to the library and get another one because
they can get the QR. You can't go to the library and get a MAP card.
No, they can get the QR code and link to it.
So that is easier for them to generate than to have to go to the individual service provider.
Yep, you got it. And the multi-factor, the verification, and then the fact that the service provider will verify every of those documents over time, that person's account is built up with all of these third-party verified documents and accesses, and they're a real person. Those are real things. You can't really deny that.
Can you take something down if the MAP card is expired?
Yes.
Can you delete that and you upload a new one?
Yeah.
Use a smart contract to automatically not allow access after this.
I'm sorry.
Smart contract, so it doesn't allow access after expiration. So if you give them something, it has an expiration date. Just like them sharing something with you, it expires. Same thing. You share something with them, you put an expiration date. It hits that date, goes away.
That's time for Q&A. Thanks,
Thank you.
Digital Town.
They originally came from Australia 40 years ago, but now you can get them straight. Probably like religious, Aboriginals probably like had the animal worship for this. So a lot of Aboriginals are still they're like indigenous people before.
Hi, my name is Dan Hedges. I'm with Team Samayam, also with Melissa on UX and Pedro on technical communications. I was the developer. We got together, we met yesterday during a conversation about blockchain and with blockchain enthusiasts. And we came to a point where we were discussing, all our teams are discussing a lot of things. You're going to hear a lot of themes. We've got a user base that can't do self-sovereign identification, which is the strongest one, but it doesn't matter because we can't go there if they could lose their device. We're going to have to go with some other type of authentication, and we want a way to identify ourselves. Do we need a blockchain for that? And I got into a conversation and I asserted, I don't think we do. And so I wanted to try it. If we don't have a blockchain, we can do development very quickly. We've been doing these silos for a long time. What can we do with a silo? And if a blockchain solution can't be the silo, then maybe we shouldn't do it. That was the idea that we wanted to go forward with to see what would happen. And this is a product that one developer made in 24 hours. So we tried it, and we'll see what we can do. All right, I'm actually not going to go through slides because we don't have much time. Okay, here is the Samayam app, and we're going to start, and we're just going to walk through a scenario that we went with Maggie and Steve, where Maggie is a caseworker. This is user password authentication. Maggie might have some other permissions, but she has a role, and her role allows her to create roles for her clients. So she has Steve. Okay, now she just created a client. Her client Steve came in, and he wanted to get his identification on the system. With that, we got a code, and this code will allow you to see your identification. So let me just show you where it goes.
Hey, can I hold your mic for you?
Thank you. Okay, so from here, you can see that using just a code, without any authentication, you can see what's in the system. So there is a view that given just this code, you can see your identification. That's what Frank was just showing you. His was a QR code. Mine, it's letters. But it's the same idea, that it's a public identifier, and with the public identifier, you can identify. Now, this person doesn't have anything concrete. We don't have a picture, we don't have a driver's license, but he can put it in. All right. So, now log out of him. Whoops. Okay. So this is his user form, and I'm going to upload a document that is a picture of a driver's license. There. Now he's uploaded his driver's license. It's a fake driver's license. But you can see it, you can print it out, but at this point it is actually not verified. It says it's unverified, so you're not going to see it on your public identifier form. That step, and again, we've heard this in a lot of other teams too, is to go to the source that can verify. So I've got an account that so this is a person who works for TXDL, Texas Driver's License. Okay, what he can do, he can look at this. This is his work order. He has to service these orders. This is a driver's license. He can look at it, and he can then create a cryptographic signature, sign it. This is him signing off on that. Now, that is a piece that, upon reflection and with conversations, that doesn't work. And the reason is not in the real world. Theoretically, this signature could only come from whoever holds that key. Those keys need to change. And so we have to go back and look at, see who held the key at that time. And that's why we need blockchain. Okay? And that's exactly what Ori said just now. He was using blockchain for, was the validation and the proof and the audit trail. Okay? And he could have told me that yesterday, but he didn't. Yeah. All right, any questions?
Yeah, this last column right here,
Mm-hmm.
does that indicate that you use two means of logging in?
Okay.
There's a biometric login and there's another login?
No. This is a different role. This is the role for somebody who has authorization for signing signing documents. So this is not for, this is a silo again. This is every user has a different kind of a role. We've got a caseworker role, and she could do certain things. This guy just signs. This generates a signature, and this puts it in. Okay.
Could you add blockchain to your app straightforwardly?
Yes. 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 And yeah.
Doing it the right way.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I do all of this at one time? So I've got a client in front of me. I'm creating their map card. I don't have to send it to another queue. I need to quickly be able to verify the document.
Yes. So what the caseworker, when I built this, what the caseworker can do is create an account for someone. But I also allowed that caseworker to be able to, I want to be allow that caseworker to also upload the document there. To do that, I have to give the caseworker a little bit of extra permission. But if you give the caseworker extra permission, then anybody can use the system to identify herself, right? Because all you need is the public identifier. That brings up your picture, your driver's license, and a verification, okay? And she never needed to authenticate into the system. She doesn't need an account. She doesn't need a password. Does that make sense? She just has a, okay, she's got a public identifier. Okay. She goes to a place of service. The place of service can look her up, see her driver's license, and that it's verified. That means that she can see a picture, everything that she could see if she had a driver's license. Know the information that's not there. So why do we need a driver's license? Why can't I just show up to a place, say I'm this person, that's verified in the system, then I trust it. Okay.
Right, and I'm saying, so once I've given that person coverage, so I'm the caseworker that is creating a map card, how do I then, can I put it into the system and verify it right then and there? Do I have to go through multiple steps? You were talking about having siloed queues that one person uploads it, another person verifies it, and I have 27,000 MAP clients, and I, as a caseworker, can't control who's coming into my door.
The problem is that the MAP workflow is rough. And I can't help with that. In fact, that's why UX was so important for this, because the problem that we're having is that it's a very complicated workflow, and the system right now is to just say, well, it's all your problem. You have to be here with all the documentation, and if you're not, if there are steps that are ongoing, I can't save state for you. You are the state. You are the database with all the state in it, and it shouldn't be that way. So using this, I was sort of hoping that the caseworker could make things happen. The caseworker is part of the machine that sort of grinds along, that there are steps that are ongoing while the client is not necessarily there. I mean,
so to summarize, you would say that the blockchain is part of the solution, and then maybe fixing the system is also part of the solution.
It almost seems like this could serve as like an orchestration engine where the validation, that could be a black box. That could be whatever the originator of the document, whatever their process is by which they do that. You know, to her point, if there's a gross volume of things, perhaps that's a third-party system. But I think this is really illustrating that, like, the identity, the coordination, the management, those need to be like different interchangeable bits.
Yes.
And real quick question, because you don't have much time. The signature is not just that that driver's license exists with DPS. Does it also tie that that's really the guy in front of me?
It should have metadata, and it should return some data as part of that also.
Okay, some more than just the document is valid, but that this is appropriate use of the document.
Yeah, and I have to think that there's a database that's
right. There's got to be a database. Yeah. Okay.
If that database were public, this wouldn't even be necessary. You could just have the Arch. You show up to a place and you say, "Look, I'm Dan," and they're like, "Oh, let me look you up." Oh my God, I know you. It makes you feel like a celebrity. They can look you up and verify that's who you are, as if they knew you.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And then maybe
Nobody has Diet Coke. So we're just the entire pool is empty, and we still have 50 Diet Cokes and 1 Coke. Same thing with just nothing but Diet Coke. Why does everybody do that? That's why nobody likes Diet Coke except George Michael. He's dead.
Judges, we ready?
One more. I wanted to ask.
Okay. Lily Pond. Is she good to go?
Yes. Okay.
Your team on? Team name?
Team name is Lily Pond Project. Okay. This is a slide-free presentation, so you don't have to concentrate. I'm here because I'm working with the autism community, and so many of our kiddos end up on the streets because they just can't handle the pressure and the load of the documents of interacting with government. And this begins in the school system itself for our community. Okay? So we know how people end up on the streets because we live this through our world. Every year, AISD, the Austin Independent School District, holds an annual meeting for families with special needs. Okay? And every year, maybe every single year, the AISD special needs team sends out notifications to all the special needs families saying, you must fill in these documents, you must fill in these forms, make sure you're registered with these different organizations, make sure that the system knows about your kid. And then they ask the big question, did you fill in this particular Medicaid form 10 years ago to make sure that your kid gets services when your kid transitions out of childhood and into adulthood? And in spite of all the notifications that you're all talking about here today, and all the communication systems that are supposed to be working, people, parents, they break down and cry when they realize that there was a form 10 years before that they had forgotten to fill in. And now when their kid transitions from childhood into adulthood, government services are simply going to evaporate. And that's where a large part of your housing program begins, okay? Because a huge portion of our community ends up on the streets because they couldn't handle admin problems back when the child was 6. Okay? Now the pressure isn't on, as Dan said, we shouldn't put the pressure on the client to take responsibility for these things. Because their neurotypical parents, that's people like you and me, were supposed to be overseeing the system to take care of their kids. And they even can't do it themselves. Right? So you all design government systems every single day. And the people you're taking care of can't handle the systems that you're designing. And this problem is happening before they hit the streets. Okay? So homelessness is simply a consequence of a disaster that we all design. All of us. Okay? Now you can blockchain yourselves to death if you want to. You can invent new chips. You can put chips in the back of their necks. But if we're not taking care of the system ourselves in a responsible manner, it's not going to work. Where's Dan? Is he here? Can you stand up? Okay. Right, so Dan had the nerve to say we don't need a blockchain system, right? And he pointed the reason why, and I'm here to prove exactly why that's right. Okay, you can't go and put a Band-Aid on a problem that started when the kid was 6 years old. It's not going to work. Somehow you need to get back into the school system, and I'm just here for the autism community, right? You could say the same thing for drug rehab. You could say the same thing for veterans coming back from war. The problem starts way back there, deep into those systems. And you need to get your blockchain solutions deep, deep into the system. Not just here at the Band-Aid end, okay? Now we're working with a company here in Austin, and we're looking at a chip solution. The idea that we need a new approach to hardware. Okay? The technical details are whether it's going to work or not, I don't really know. Okay? But just think about that homelessness is a consequence of a much, much deeper problem. Now, I have a number of students because even though you're all listening to me, I actually teach kids with autism to play piano. You're listening to a piano teacher here, okay? Now, I have a kid, he's 16 years old, one of my students. He lives online, he orders his food, he uses Uber, his therapists come in, and his mom just wants to know one thing. The person who rings that door, is it really Uber? Is it really the pizza guy? Is it really the library picking up the books? And hopefully we're using the chip to answer that question, a new approach to hardware. So that's the end of the story. Thank you.
So if we create a audit trail where the party's interacting with an autistic student through secondary education, through elementary school, through kindergarten, for goodness sakes. Can we use the blockchain to create a better audit trail that is self-generating by all the interactions rather than putting all the responsibility on the patient?
Yes, that would be ideal.
Okay.
That would be ideal. Because the AISD Special Needs Family Committee will tell you, even though they send out all the notifications, they send out little pieces of paper in the school bags, in the lunchbox, they send mail through US mail, they send emails. Nobody opens mail anymore, right?
As an engineer, I would claim almost all of us are on the spectrum somewhere, and I am paperwork challenged, and so I can relate to some of that, though it hasn't been a barrier for me or my kids to a huge extent. But creating audit trails behind interactions feels like it can be helpful.
Yeah.
The young person who you said was living online, what happens to them with the chip solution if they become homeless? How does that continue to work to verify who's coming to see them?
This approach to hardware security has been signaled by the NSA. There's technology that's been lying around for 20 years that was never implemented, and the NSA are looking to implement it now. Okay. So to answer that question, we would have to conduct a pilot study, which would cost about $1.5 million just to build that prototype chip. So we can't answer your question yet.
So yeah, I'm a parent of a special needs kid, and you're dead on. Like even something as simple as like the 504 plan, like having that be, commutable between schools and institutions. There's a valid need for that. And I think this is illustrating that whatever we solve for the homelessness problem, it needs to be extensible to all these other areas as well that you mentioned.
Yeah, that's right.
I haven't heard from any of the groups yet talking about opting out. What if Dan wants to opt out of the tracking software or whatever, and just be a human being and interact and get services? Will Dan be denied, or will the child be denied if they don't want to be blockchained or filtered, as you say?
You'd have to ask a techie that question. Is Karen Kilroy here? Karen, can you answer that?
Oh, I'm here. I would think that's a policy question, just like any other system that someone's required to be a part of.
We're really in a discussion here. You're a very unique project. I would say that the blockchain does provide the ability to create cryptographic audits, but also provide ways of segmenting that data out so that it's in control of perhaps the individual. Occasionally it's in control by other parties. Believe it or not, the justice system will keep records on you, whether you like them to or not. So there is some amount of records that will be kept against all of us, no matter, you don't get to opt out of everything, is what I guess I'm summarizing. But to the extent that we can, when we want to make an argument, walk into a situation and say, this is the truth and this is why I believe it's the truth, we can make systems more responsive and more human. And I think the blockchain has some potential there.
Is that it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Pay it forward.
Well,
no,
the money, yeah,
but
yeah. Not the actual payment.
And whenever that paid for
Right? Yeah? All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here, and thanks so much for having me here. I enjoyed for the last 3 days listening to some amazing individuals about some pressing problems that I did not know was actually that big. But to jump into my whole presentation, my name is Ahmed Saleh Abdurrahman Abdulbari Ibrahim Shahawi Abdulaziz. Do not be Arabic for that reason. Horrible. An immigrant entrepreneur. Previously was homeless for some part of my life. Landed over here a year and a half ago and watched everything that is happening. Came up with a solution for some industry, and now I'm shifting it to be a solution, or giving it away to be a solution for the homeless and the homeless issue in general. I'm calling it Pay It Forward. We all want to do that at one time. My team, those people who are behind the curtains, they are over 3 countries. They did not sleep for the last 2 days, shifting the whole entire back end and the front end as well, some parts of it, to match, to be a solution for the current problem. Some of them, one of them is actually a Fortune 500, and the other is Fortune 100 ex-CMO. So with that being said, what's the problem? The problem is that there's a lot of solutions and people have immediate needs, but it's hard to navigate the current solutions for various reasons. Some of which could be the unavailable technology when it's mostly needed. Even if the technology is existing, sometimes it can be challenging for some individuals. There is a lot of solutions, as I said, but the problem is they are not aligned. They do not work together, and that's the biggest issue. During my, I call it market research with Steve, Chris, Julian, Nicole, CJ, David, Lisa, Greg, those amazing individuals, I identified that there's a lot of solutions out there, but they are not working together. Along with that, there is a huge lack of trust from the individuals that is in a distressful situation and the service provider. I'm not here to advocate the blockchain. I'm not against it, but my platform does not need it. It is working currently in another industry, and it has proven huge traction. What is it? It's a social goods marketplace powered by people for people with a specific twist. A voice-activated kiosk. You walk towards the kiosk and it asks you, "Good morning, what's your name?" "My name is CJ. How can I help you today?" "I need food." "Okay, here's a list of 5 places around you that are giving you a meal for free." Then you click on one specific offer. It takes a screenshot of your face, and it prints you a receipt with every single piece of information that is simple. I'm not talking about, is it gluten, is it this, is it that? I'm talking about the high level of simplicity. So what does that do? The platform helps people, because at the end of the day, they are people. They're not homeless.
1 minute.
To find whatever they need, whenever they need, wherever they're located in real time. How it works, service provider dump their offers, that is free, and it gets reflected on the front end on a kiosk. There's lots of benefit, blah, 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 blah. Pay it back, future function. It can be a mobile app for individual to increase interactivity within the society during pressing and helping with pressing problems with an incentivization mechanism. Thank you. This is my app currently. Excuse me, we were not able to take out the database from the fitness industry, so you will see some of them is actually still So you will scroll around if you have your own mobile. And you will see over here, for example, one of the gentlemen yesterday, he said, I don't need anything, I just need an eyeglass because I can't see.
Move the Q&A, please. Questions from the judges?
You mentioned that the person's picture is taken as part of the process.
Yes, if you're in a kiosk or if you have your phone.
What is it used for, and where is that stored?
The service provider needs to know who's coming to take this on Node.js. It's a normal distributed database.
So the idea would be that they search for maybe where to get free glasses. And the picture's taken and it's sent to the service provider so they can verify that that's who.
Yes.
Okay.
So even if you don't know anything, even if you didn't understand what's going on in front of you, you can say over here, some of them just want to have a job, just to make a little bit of money, work for God's sake. So you can search job, and there's someone who's offering a 2 hours job, and it says over here we will pay you well. So you can sign up immediately, and you can confirm. Yeah.
This round of the application does not manage identities. You're basically just taking a picture.
One thing that I've learned through the last 3 years, do not build the wheel.
Right.
Use what you have,
No,
perfect
no.
how it moves. I'm starting with a smaller version, and then later on we can implement APIs of different entities where I can solve the identity. The same device that can print the receipt, it could be utilized later on for I need to print my ID because I lost it. So at that time, a thumbprint and eye recognition or facial recognition can just get activated.
Do you have ideas on how the blockchain could in the future integrate with what you've got?
My ideas and my knowledge about blockchain is the same as my knowledge about Chinese.
Okay, fair enough.
How do the service providers enter the ecosystem?
There is a back end for that. If I have time, I can show it to you. So you can see over here, you can register with a username and password, and immediately after that loads, you can sign up. There is definitely
Is there some catalog that I can add my services into?
Yes, so again, that back end right now is for the fitness industry, but it can be changed in a matter of a few weeks. So you can see categories of what you can offer from, currently you have events, classes, passes, and meetups. And it later on will be like, what kind of organization are you? If you're a church, if you're a mosque, if you're a shelter, you can basically offer whatever you have in stock.
Is there any verification that they are who they say they are?
I did not touch on that. And apparently I broke the table. So yeah, and the interface for data entry is practically very simple. You can just add whatever it is. And
what we'll do when the last team pitches is we'll collect all of the scorecards. It's taking our tabulators about 5 minutes to put it into the spreadsheet. In that 5 minutes, we can take a quick bio break. And then I would ask the judges to convene over in this lounge corner. We'll show you the tabulation of scores, and you can do your final deliberation for first prize, second prize, and most hacked forward. Who helped us move the needle this weekend? And then lunch is on its way. So while the judges are deliberating, people can be milling about. And then maybe 15 minutes or so after the final tabulation, we'll announce the winners.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just.
Yeah, 1 second.
Yeah,
just waiting for some last minute.
Sure. Oh, yeah,
Okay, I think we're ready to go. What was yours?
This is just for reference in the background. I come from a technology background, and I have to admit that coming to this weekend, I didn't really know much about this domain, and I've learned a lot. So I really appreciate everyone that made time to talk to me, to help me better understand the challenges. Personally, I believe that all of us are 2 to 3 tragedies away from being homeless, and so I can really empathize with the challenges. So like I said, I'm a software architect by training, and so I tend to tackle problems at the big picture. And so just to kind of lay the groundwork, this pitch is more about solving the bigger problems, I believe, than specifically to the use cases for this challenge, even though they're very valid use cases. So just to set the problem context, right? In my experience, all software are just representations of the real world, right? And so every city has a social safety net, right? Whether we think of it that way. So Austin, you're using some examples of Austin, right? And you guys probably know all about these different entities, organizations. But we're dealing with a lot of providers for housing, jobs, mental health, a lot of data, right? So insurance data, housing data, identity data, right? There were all these participants in the, in the system, not just persons dealing with experiencing homelessness, but refugees, right? People dealing with domestic abuse, right? So there is a social safety net that is that does exist, that does help people, right? And the question is, well, how do we improve how we deliver this safety net, right, by using technology? And that's the focus. Right, so again, from talking to providers and everyone here, I learned a lot. And so these are the challenges and pain points that I identified through, through these different dimensions. So for systems, right, so the current systems are coordinated entry and HIMS. And just from talking with the providers, some of the pain points are related to, their proprietary implementations. The providers themselves don't trust the word of other providers, right? They need government proof or IDs as backup. Not every provider is using these systems. The data themselves are siloed, right? The systems are siloed. There's not a lot of sharing and connection between the systems. The data quality, the data accuracy itself is not very good, or is not dependable, right? And then for the people actually using social services, right, there is a huge burden on both the users and the providers to provide a lot of documentation, to do a lot of verification, right? And a lot of times these things take a long time before someone can actually receive the services. So there's a long wait time. Obviously, there's a lot of concerns around control of your own personal data and ownership. And it's just a perception from the users of systems that their data is being used, right? And then obviously, persons experiencing homelessness do move between cities, and then you kind of have to start the whole cycle again. Right, so, by learning all this, that was the impetus for this idea around a city safety net, right? So a platform to actually mirror the real world that does exist, but to to build it using technology that can actually solve some of those challenges that identified. So again, it's a scalable platform for city social services. And the reason why blockchain, I think, can really help is that it's decentralized, it's permission-based, it provides secure digital identities, transactions are captured, you can't alter or mess with them, and you can have confidential data, right? So it addresses the security questions. These are just some of the benefits for users, providers, and cities, on this platform. Here's the actual vision of what this would look like, right? And again, there's a lot of details, obviously, but the idea is that using blockchain and cryptography technologies on top of this Hyperledger fabric, which is implementation of blockchain, right? You have this kind of platform built on top called CityNet, and you have individual private blockchains, Boston, Houston, Dallas, right? Different cities, and they all can connect to each other, right?
Move the Q&A, please.
Oh, right. Okay.
Questions from the judges?
Yeah. Let's leave on this one.
On your architecture, you have different cities with their different blockchains, but
right.
Then who maintains the platform?
It would be, this organization.
Okay.
As far as admin, it would be, whoever the administrator is for that blockchain, for that city.
So that city segment platform would be a data warehouse for these different
It's a private blockchain for each city, essentially.
How do the blockchains interact? How do you deal with people moving from city to city?
That's a good question. That's a problem that has to be solved. Obviously, we're not trying to have an answer to every problem that can be encountered. There could be APIs. It could be, it could be different ways to exchange.
I can answer that.
Yeah.
I would say that Fabric does have its capacity
participant can be.
to join them so they're all running on the same framework.
Okay.
But that's just me.
This is the day one I'm working.
He became an expert this weekend.
All right, I'll leave it as an open question.
Sure.
I don't have the answer either, so. You sound like you have the answer, but I'm not going to ask you.
Probably we could include those GDRPG mechanism where they can control their own data.
Yeah.
So
maybe.
That's smart contracts. Do you have any smart contracts in your architecture? Is there something that you would like to add that you didn't quite get to in your last minute?
I think contracts have to play. I mean, contracts can represent the agreements that somebody agrees to in terms of housing or mental health or whatever it is. So I think that's a core feature of this platform.
So as a contract point of view, we have this service accounts where participants can log in and they are kind of like an admin and they can control those contracts.
So if I have a few seconds left, and I know this might be
the last.
Yeah, sorry.
I got it.
Yeah, can you go present real quick? Go present. Yeah. Present. So this is just kind of my overall, right? And
Ran out of time, guys.
Sorry. So I was just saying, like,
Thanks for taking that.
I think the answer to this problem has to be big.
So, audience members, if you have some forms or input feedback, please bring them up to the so we can collect that and implement the information. So, take your forms.
If anyone wants to see our demo, I will give it.
Throw it into a like Hyperledger. Throw it into a community that's an external entity.
Oh, you mean Hyperledger, the foundation?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not really set up.
I'm not saying them. I'm saying, but form a foundation like that, like an open source community, like the Eclipse. Or,
so you'd it's like you're forking.
I'm not proposing it. I'm just saying.
So you like forking
if you don't want a
project
corporation to own it.
But you want an organization. Open source doesn't really provide services. So Eclipse and all these guys, they don't provide services. You have to figure out how to provide services. Because that on-ramp into that system is a service.
I totally agree. I'm just saying, by analogy.
By analogy.
If a government entity can't do it, and if you don't want a private entity to do it, then you have to create some NGO kind of thing.
Yeah, but you could
How does that relate to all the other proposals?
Looks like that last one, is that just?
His other proposal,
any of that?
under would be a better one. It would be the platform on which the other
So if you could get a group of like-minded individuals together and create essentially an industry standard where one does not exist, and then all the cities would then design their solutions under that open standard, and then you create and integrate them all, they should work together. Right. Yeah.
Right.
And then those other apps that we saw would all be apps, or the apps that ran on top of this.
Yeah. But if I were looking at the projects that were presented, the last one in the Lily Pond one were more on discussing the technology and less about providing a implementation that showed how to do. The last guy, because he didn't quite get the developers he wanted, his team got broken in half.
Oh.
Okay. So Dan went off and did his thing and did not. Originally, the idea was they would be one team. And then
Dan, was that Sam I Am?
Yes, Sam I Am. And Lily Pond just came in as I'm disappointed we didn't talk to Lily Pond early in the hackathon, because I think they actually had. They did their 5-minute presentation, but it was, I don't know about y'all, but I had a hard time following what he was trying to say.
Well, from the homeless perspective, that is one of the ones that was the most unclear on exactly all of it, really. From if I'm going to talk to my fellow homeless person about this solution, that is the one that I'm going to have the hardest time with.
Well, with the way he gave it to begin with. What he said today, I thought was real clear, which is how do we find solutions when the people themselves are not good at filling out forms? Because we penalize people all the time, not for not having information and not for not following the rules, but for just not following the procedures.
Yeah.
You know, you stood in the wrong line.
Yeah.
And
well, coming from the homeless perspective, I can't emphasize enough how big the trust issue is, how the fear of Big Brother and the fear that your information is going to be used against you in some form or fashion. Yeah, I mean, that is key.
That was the big thing that I saw that was missing, that I was trying to poke on. I think that first group was, I see that you can easily enter your driver's license. You can easily take a picture. That's not the issue. We have to develop solutions that relate emotionally to get them to upload that data. And none of them, I felt like, addressed that. Other than
there's one.
Sam I Am, I thought was interesting because that was the one that brought in the role of caseworker that I thought was very interesting. I don't know how applicable it is because I don't know the space, but at least
with caseworkers, I know their case load. I've actually emailed the city as far as what I feel case management should be, but that is another tool, certainly, but with their caseload, that's a hard sell.
That was, I mean, the devil's in the details, but the way it was presented, I didn't see how on the social service side, the onus was a lot larger, and that, you know, resources and time and efficiency is key to really being successful in implementation.
The projects gave to a document, some identity. One was city.
Digital town?
Digital town. Yeah. Basically, you upload your documents, right? And the second one is authorities kind of verify not just the documents, but some information around them. And the information around them and having an authority, you know, like a notary that basically says the guy that showed up with this document looks like he's the right guy. I mean, it's not really strong, but it's way stronger than I just uploaded the thing I found in the gutter.
Right.
So those were the two, but to your point, once you're asking the driver's license guys and the social workers and various people to look at documents and sign off on them, they're picking up work and they're picking up liability.
What value?
So the way that your score is tabulated, Compass came in first, Digital Town came in second, Transmute came in third. So the question is, after your deliberation here, is that the prevailing sentiment, or do you think that there's something else that emerges from your experience?
I have to say I did not write down, so can you quickly remind me, like, who was Compass? Yeah, what order did they present?
Transmute presented first.
Okay.
Compass presented second.
From my perspective, Digital Town and QR code solution, I thought that was the most tangible, something that we could actually implement and roll out, and it actually work. And what I like about it is that it can be done completely independent of any underlying system.
Right.
So you can make that, and then whatever the system is that does the document management, whether it's an app or website, that can come after the fact. And so I think that one combined with any of the other proposals, and you have a robust solution.
I like that, but so we've tried to use ID cards that have the barcode for homeless management information system. We've had a really tough time with that, but in those examples, you have to wait on the provider to print it up. Right. I did like that they could do that themselves.
Yes, it's fully independent of it.
But when I look at communities outside Austin, it's not going to work quite as easy as it would here, but it's a good solution for us. And why just because, well, just because you're going to have as much access to the technology print off, replace it.
The challenge with barcodes.
Oh, that one.
What is the challenge?
That big challenge with that was they were being lost all the time. Damaged where
it was a card, right? It was like a plastic card.
It was a plastic card. And the replacement had to be provided by the service provider.
So you have my
In this case, it's
Keep in mind that the QR code, let's not get too worried about barcodes versus QR codes, but the nice thing about a QR code is I can spill coffee on it and it still works.
I'm losing
If
mine.
I spill coffee on the barcode, it doesn't work. So that's the security of it. But they're, from our perspective, they're the same. You just print them and use them. But the reliability.
So the two are that it lasts through other better conditions and that is
self-generated. To me,
yes. But barcodes can be self-generated.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. So the implementation of using a password, QR code PIN, it's a little bit more complex because you got four things, but the self-generating aspect.
And do I have to have resources? I have to buy something as a service provider to read that QR code, right?
No, you use free apps on your phone. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just use it.
Well, no, if I'm the service at Central Health, I don't have a cell phone. My staff
But
didn't.
you have a mobile device, and scanning codes, printed codes is a solvable problem. Let's just say that.
Right.
There's a lot of ways.
Resource. Do I have to buy
systems
resources?
would have to be built that would integrate the scanning device, whether it was your mobile phone or a gun.
Well, I assume she has a computer. If she's all paperwork, then.
But somebody, but the system would have to be built on the part of that service provider to integrate that.
Or you publish standards, and say to use this, here's an API, you create the system interfaces with that, and then it just becomes a standard.
Again, if we're trying to grow this, for service providers, resources is going to be key. So what is this going to cost my organization to implement whatever we develop?
whatever that, you have to reduce the burden on the service providers and the clients as much as possible.
Right. And at which point I have to have more detail. I can say that the from a technology point of view and software deployment point of view, reading these cards is as easy as a solution as I, as a technical guy, can give you. But I can't look in your organization and know how hard it is for you to move somebody from the way they're doing it now. Look at Texas Tiers. Tiers took forever to get people to move from the way they were doing it to something else, so I can't say.
I mean,
can I make some statements about the ordering, though? Because that's probably what we need to concentrate on, even though the talk is really interesting. I would say that from a technical point of view, Compass and Transmute both did more over the weekend than anybody else. They really did. Digital City also did a lot. So they're not slackers in any way. As well as Sam IM did a lot of work. Pay It Forward did a lot of work, and there you go.
Which was the one that had all of the workflows underneath it?
That was
Is that Compass?
Yeah. Compass's solution is scarily complete.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They did pretty much everything we asked of them.
Right.
If you marry Compass and Digital Town,
Yeah.
that's a powerful.
And back to the point about the impact on the service providers with the equipment or whatever.
Right.
My understanding of what Digital Town is proposing, it doesn't have to be a QR code. It could be any sort of code that gets printed out. It could be UPC barcode. It could be that part isn't what I like about it. What I like about it is the identity is wholly separate from the systems that hold the information.
Yes.
And it's the ease of the printing and the disposability and generating a new one. And so there's no value in the method.
That separation is key, I think.
Yes, yeah.
I will say Digital Town gets most of its ease of use from really being very centralized. Because when you're not holding the documents yourself and you're not holding your private keys, then there is a thing that's holding those keys and those documents. So from a decentralization point of view, i.e., can everyone participate by simply providing their own resources and make the system work? So this is whether I have to have a foundation, or do I just say everybody gets to participate if they just do it? So that last one, everybody can just participate if you just do it, is really powerful, because you don't have to set up the foundation. You don't have to argue about Google controlling everything.
Yeah.
And to that end, Compass and Transmute and really those two, they really did that.
So
Everyone else has got extreme centralized.
So if you took Compass as your base, which was decentralized and seemed to hit what the charge was, and you went back to Digital Town, which was the outward facing, almost, it was that connectivity, that interactiveness.
Right.
If you went back to Digital Town and said, now decentralize your function consistent with Compass, I mean, it almost seems like you could do that.
Yeah, they could.
But I like the element that Digital Town, I mean, that just seemed to me too. Compass seemed to be the platform, but Digital Town
is usable.
It seemed to be a really valuable plug-in for that, but decentralized so that you weren't undercutting what it was you're trying to achieve.
Decentralization increase trust?
In my notes, I think Compass, simply because they do not rely on biometrics. Really point, it was, and it's the same thing with Digital Town. If you leave biometrics out of that, now, of the two, those are the two that I trust the most, simply because lack of biometrics. There's, for me to sell this to my fellow homeless, that, I can't say again how much that's important. And ease of use, if I can come up to, I need medical help, so I come up to serve, and then zip. With a barcode, that is an incredible value for somebody like me.
To be able to print that barcode out? Absolutely. So yeah, I think, like we've been saying, the combination of the two, have Compass as the base, you know, and have some safety features here and there, but yeah.
Yeah, and I would say Digital Town is you could decentralize it.
Yes.
Are we missing somebody that was?
Christopher had to go pick up the Challenger newspaper. It's printing today. So.
The other thing that I put is that Pay It Forward had the most utility with the community,
right,
and the lowest bar of entry,
yes,
to the homeless. So it really deserves, you know, the fact that there just is no bar to using it, no bar to provide entry.
Right.
That's very good.
Yeah,
it's limited.
I
but
didn't
it's,
find it because it didn't solve any of the problems of knowing there's a job or knowing where to go. It didn't seem to solve any of the problems, which is I don't have the documentation.
I think if you get it, I think it was a little bit too concise. I mean, it's a really simple app. A map pops up, shows you where all the resources are, and you can. I mean, there's a list of resources. I think it's the most valuable thing from the homeless side, but not as far as for
in the emergency situation where you're just hungry.
Authentication and tracking.
Do it. So I don't think it's a homeless solution, but I do think it's worth mentioning.
I mean, there's a lot of systems out there that do very similar things.
Well, that's just, we already have some downtown kiosk things in flight already. In conversation. So I mean, this could be just something we add to it as additional functionality or a different approach. Yeah.
Is that a lot of people who serve the homeless that aren't like your major providers, but who have this long tail of smaller providers, they don't keep their information up to date.
Right.
We tried to have it on Bertha, we tried to have 211, none of that stuff works. Our content strategists have found that people tend to have websites that are geared towards fundraising, not geared towards publishing information for use of people who need it. So for that solution to be long-term viable, we would have to encourage the publication of information by churches. We have food on this day, we have clothes on this day.
And how do you keep it current?
And how do you keep it
you're
current?
relying on the
That is
person
a-
providing the service to keep it current. And
it's
if
a
they're not
persistent
current, they're not going
problem.
to.
Well,
Yeah, that just doesn't scale.
Pay It Forward has a receipt thing, so when you're at the kiosk, you know when you get there it'll be there, as opposed to just being a directory. So directories have the fault that we're talking about here. The fact that there's a ping and return means that but now the danger will be you try, and you give up.
No, it could be added into the ecosystem. So if you are a service provider who uses like the underlying app or whatever, you could make part of the sign up that they have to provide the information that would then feed into a kiosk or whatever repository.
And we're exploring, like,
Yeah.
do our social services contract need to have a data standard with
Right,
them?
yeah,
That if you get a contract with the city, like, you're required to then publish your data so that these types of devices could have current data on them. I mean, I like what he's trying to do. I feel like that is a very separate problem with a very separate support ecosystem that'll make it viable. And so to that end, I wanted to let you know, we forgot to print awards. One of my favorite awards that I ever received was somebody who wrote "You are crazy awesome" on a Sharpie and left it on my chair. I still have it framed. It's like better than any like formal certificate. So we have Mayor's Blockchain Challenge. We won. We are crazy awesome. And we owe you $2,000 because they have to go through Dell Medical to get the money. Mayor's Blockchain Challenge, we won second prize, and we are crazy awesome, and we owe you $1,000. And then we hacked it forward, and we are crazy awesome, and you have our undying gratitude. So these are the three prizes. For third or fourth place, you could decide that they did a lot of work to help push this forward, even though their solution isn't rising to the top. And then I think what happens is we synthesize our learnings, and it becomes our application to Bloomberg Philanthropies to get that infrastructure to support the implementation of these ideas.
So in the future, I think if Pay It Forward doesn't carry the top prize or the second prize, it doesn't mean that we can't find a way to support them and make that solution viable in the future. I think that that's might be a separate process. So with that, who do you think hacked it forward?
Me personally, speaking from the homeless point of view, the ranking we have now, I agree with you.
Okay.
I actually thought Sam I Am hacked it forward the best because they proved the point. And I think as part of an application, that's really would be a really interesting point of view to bring to an application.
I was happy with Compass being number one.
Oh,
No, this is the third place.
Oh,
this
is
is
third.
the, like.
So this is not hack. Okay.
No, this is.
So third place, you helped us hack it forward. You helped us prove our point.
Right.
There's it either goes to Transmute or Sam I Am is what's currently on the table.
I really like Transmute though. They had a very they weren't able to present the complexity of what they did. I will give that Sam I Am.
Can we give out two? Can we give out two Hacked It Forward awards?
Let's give two.
There you go.
I can write one of these really quickly.
That's why you're in the position you're in.
Can they each get $1,000 or do we have to split it 5-5?
No, the Hacked It Forward is
That's no money.
It's
our deep
Our deep
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah.
Because they each did
They-
that
yes,
in
they did,
different ways.
absolutely.
They each did
Yes.
that in very different
Yes.
ways.
So one Hack It Forward for Sam I Am and one Hack It Forward for Transmute.
Yes.
Can you go make another one? Second prize, you're crazy awesome, and we owe you $1,000.
Digital Town.
Digital Town.
Yep.
Okay. And then we won. We are crazy awesome. We owe you $2,000. Compass.
And I think to the degree that you're pulling this together to give something back to Bloomberg,
Yes.
I would present something to them that incorporated those two things.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Yes, though we have a first and a second. Our hope is to combine a blending of both of these.
Absolutely.
How did it?
If we were working on that with Pay It Forward, I would want to make sure that we also work with the coordinated entry system that's already in place because we don't want to undermine what they're doing.
Right.
Because if you're directing people to this other system and it's not being, that coordinated entry is supposed to solve the problems of people being sent all over the place. So, and it's supposed to.
That is a conversation that will evolve.
Yes.
I need to solve that.
So are they going to get a chance after this to work together, or do you submit this to Bloomberg?
Yeah, so what we're hoping now is that we'll be working with 3 Day Startup to facilitate around, how do we organize around these solutions? What level of effort would that require? And we're ultimately making a pitch to Bloomberg for either $1 million or $5 million. And so that's our job in the next 2 weeks, is to take this information as evidence and to work around the organizational problem of putting this together. The fact that all of you are here on the judging panel is also part of our evidence. If you're willing to come here today, we hope that you're also willing to help support us and mentor us and guide us as we go forward. We talked yesterday about also Blockchain Collective and many other folks around town being available for support and mentoring. So,
But it's not out of the question to even think that an IBM or a Microsoft or a Google or an Amazon would take that on.
Correct. Yeah.
As a civic service.
Right.
But then as a population, you kind of worry when the corporations now are the toll masters for services, effectively.
Well, for the hosting of it.
Well, but you've got to create. This is not a. This isn't a decentralized blockchain solution in the last case. You have to figure out the entry points.
So this is part of actually a series that we're doing on the Innovation Office's effort to combat homelessness in the city. So
Okay.
it's part of a larger series.
Yeah, I would like to know where exactly, like how to find it online, because then it will help me to put it on my social media and increase the awareness of it.
So I'll make sure that I give you my card and get a
That
card
would be
from you,
awesome,
and then I'll let you know as soon as we post it.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Cool beanies.
Thank you.
All right. So the first thing is really difficult. I'm going to have you say and spell your first and last name and the name of your team.
My name is Ahmed Saleh. I am from Pay It Forward team. Ahmed is Ahmed. Saleh, Saleh, and Pay It Forward is just Pay It Forward.
Talk to me about. Oh, you're good? Oh, that's right. I forgot. I keep doing that. I hate when you do this thing to me. Talk to me about why it was important for you to participate in the blockchain challenge this weekend.
One part of the problem doesn't really need blockchain, and it is all about identifying what you have right now. You do not have to build the wheel, just perfect how it moves. So if you can fix the first part of the problem without the blockchain, but then when it comes to identification and authentication of transactions, then you can implement blockchain, then that will be valuable. So it was very important for me to present the solution that I have got at the moment that is working and proven validity, and then later on connect with the people who are subject matter in blockchain, and what is better place than over here to actually connect with them on a deeper level.
And you'd mentioned in your presentation that some of this, you have some lived experience around this, and this is not just about coming up with an app or a solution, that there's some personal reasons behind this for you. Talk a little bit about that.
So at a very early age, I was homeless from the age, I think, 18 till 20. And I grind my way out of it. And yeah, so I know exactly how it feels like, especially for someone who woke up one day on a dog chewing on my foot because he was so hungry. So it was a very, very deep experience. And not long time ago, as an entrepreneur, I was saving money to actually do something, and I slept in my car. So that being said, I feel very, very connected and very invested in a problem that requires a solution. And not to mention, when I spoke to the 8 amazing or 9 amazing individuals who are subject matters currently homeless right now. Julian, Claudia, and CJ, David, Lisa, all those people are amazing, and they have given us their perspective about the problem that allowed me to get more into the depth of it.
And talk to me a little bit about why you feel like it's important to have the intersection of technology and social impact in this kind of space, and kind of having city government, the tech community, the social service community to come together and solve these kind of challenges. Talk about why that's important.
Back in the days, the ABCs were basically is how to survive life. I think the new era and the new days that we are in right now, the ABCs of those days are technology and development and basically learning how to code your way out of situations. So it is very important for those who are skilled in the technology department to actually find solutions as entrepreneurs, to find solutions for pressing problems that our beautiful Austin is facing right now.
Absolutely, and the judges are coming out. So as we wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to add about your experience this weekend that I haven't asked you?
In the weekend, don't just get out and get drinks and just go out to the parks and yes, do that, but every other weekend, just find something good that you really need to do and do it. Help a homeless, go and volunteer in one of the shelters or in one of the orphanage houses, in a church, in a mosque, whomever you are, wherever you are, just do something to help with the growth of the community. Because if you're not living your life, making someone else's life better, then you're not living your life.
And that's what you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good luck.
You.
You know, it's interesting, just to put this into one explanation for you. I was talking to the mayor of Providence, Rhode Island, not too long ago, who was a former winner of this prize. And their idea, what they brought to their community, came out of the challenge in Providence, where there was a huge disparity between educational attainment at early age among different populations. And they identified that a big driver of that were the number of words that children as small were exposed to. So they created a word counter that a child would wear around their neck, and it logged in unique words. And parents could look at the number of unique words that their child was being exposed to and could set goals. They could set family goals and what it resulted in was a lot more conversations and families that were being more attuned to watching a score go up. And they were given tools and things to help augment that. But it was amazing how they could create a device, a system, that directly spoke to a challenge that they had in a way that the community adopted. It was a lot of fun, actually, and it just as an example of the kind of thing that ultimately rises through the levels. And I think this exercise has that same kind of potential for cities, for our city. So this is such a classic Austin deal. You know, we are an innovative, creative, entrepreneurial community, and this is the intersection of that at its absolute best, but all focused around trying to address a municipal or a social challenge that we have. So thank everybody for doing this. The presentations, all the groups, great. It was, again, as everybody always says, tough to come up with these, and Carrie actually has the tough job now. Because she has to put together the presentation to Bloomberg that goes in 3 weeks, and I think you will find probably the representation and elements of every one of the presentations that we got today in what goes to Bloomberg. So I urge all of the teams not to go too far away, but to work with the Innovation Office, because we're going to be strongest now to the degree that we can take everybody's genius and put this to work out. So we're going to give the awards now. And the first award is the Hackett Forward Award. And then we will present the second place award and then the first place award. And in this case, the Hackett Forward Award actually has 2 winners. And we're going to announce them both. And the first one is probably the classic example of the null choice helping to establish the case study. And it's the Simeon presentation, the Sam I Am presentation. Why don't you stand in the middle here, we'll take a picture. All right. The second Hackett Forward award is Transmute.
Come on, wait. Bring up the come on, team. Let's go.
And again, you know, when we were back there trying to riff on what we thought Kerry was ultimately going to have to present to Bloomberg, and you guys played prominently in that. So please stay with me.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the second place award, and again, we see these as being, you know, the ultimate presentation is going to have elements, and this was the one that had the second, we thought, strongest component of what we would find this presentation, and that is Digital Town. Also wins $1,000, but we don't have that for you today. You have to get that from Dell, but they're good for it. And then the first place award, probably serving as the backbone of the presentation that we make, but we're going to need your help in integrating some of the other Compass.
So it's with that gratitude that I write on a Sharpie, which is my favorite instrument, on this cardstock for you. We will be reaching out to all of you. We're a community. We're going to need all of you to pull this together, not only for the grant application, but for continuing to make sure that people are not marginalized in our society. And that's what this is about. Thank you.
I just want to say, applause, please. Innovation center right now of the country and of the world. Entrepreneurism, creativity. But one of the things that I am most proud that we are known among cities, both in this country and around the world, is the degree to which we make decisions together as a community. So the community engagement system that we have in this city, evidenced in so many different ways in everything that we do, including having city council meetings that go to 3 o'clock in the morning so that everybody gets a chance to talk. But to have with us today not only people who are focusing on making sure that everybody has access and opportunity in our community, but also the community that we're trying to ensure has access and equity and opportunity in our community, because we are one family and we need everybody at the table. So I want to have a special thanks for the members of our community that provided us frontline information and data and perspective on what it is we're trying to address. Steve, Chris, everybody that participated in this, thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Ufa.
Okay, I'm ready.
Like, she's a little odd. Okay, first question, really difficult. Can you say and spell your first and last name and give me the name of your team, please?
Okay, well, the team name is Compass. And then my first name is Andrew, last name Overby. And we actually changed our name sort of midway through, learning that our first choice had a negative connotation among some of the folks we were talking with. So that was just one instance of the many times we changed course as we got feedback from people. So Compass is actually take two, but the name we stuck with.
Actually, it looks like it may have been lucky for you. So talk to me about why it was important for you and your team to participate in the Mayor's Blockchain Challenge?
It seemed like a really good mixture of a lot of things the whole team cares about. A mixture of social things as well as technological things, and a way to give back without necessarily, coming up with something that we had no idea how to do. Building a software product is something that the team knew how to do, and this was a system that actually solves a problem, I think, or at least advances toward doing that, and at a small level, I think actually does, but maybe getting ahead of myself a little bit. But it just seemed like a really good opportunity for us to volunteer some time and energy to do something good. And as members of the community, we see homelessness multiple times daily, and realize that it's something that affects everybody here. So we thought it was a good chance to tackle that.
And you talked a little bit about how just your interaction with folks here who had lived experience with homelessness helped, kind of guided your name change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about how that interaction shaped your journey to developing your prototype.
Yeah, we actually ultimately had 3 prototypes, and that's just kind of showing one of the ways in which we had to keep iterating as we interacted with people. Throughout the day on Saturday, people came up and talked to us, whether in the form of service providers or people who had been homeless or were currently homeless, and they just kept telling us things that made us change course. So we had to keep kind of starting and stopping and shifting and using different tools, but ultimately we came up with something that worked, I think, and that satisfied all their concerns. But some of the stuff we learned was like an intense concern for privacy. I mean, that's kind of an obvious thing, but even more than we would have appreciated without those interactions. And like with the name change, other details had to be changed just because of how it would register in somebody else's mind, where it seemed kind of innocuous or even kind of good or like, angelic almost. Her first name was Halo, but it seemed good things that had to change as a result of what it would mean to the people affected by it. So it really just gave us, several large doses of realism over the course of the weekend, and that made it better.
Wow. Is there anything else that you learned this weekend that just kind of just changed your thinking?
Well, it does seem like blockchain is a way to tackle a variety of societal issues. Really, anytime there's an asymmetry of trust and possibly an adversarial relationship, or at least not necessarily a trusting relationship between parties, blockchain is a likely answer, or at least a potential answer. That seems true here, and that's just evidence that it could be used other places as well. Homelessness being a good example, but others too. Anytime people aren't necessarily trusting, they could use technology, and really this is just evidence that technology can do a lot more than it's currently doing. It doesn't necessarily have to just be a for-profit enterprise or something that makes money. It can also be useful in other ways.
And talk a little bit about why it's important to bring different community stakeholders together, like government, tech community, homeless community, and others to solve these kinds of challenges.
Yeah, had it been just us, our product would have probably still come to exist, but it would have been really terrible. The fact that other people were here and other people were able to give us feedback along the way made it a lot better, and ultimately be something that could actually exist in the real world instead of sort of on paper or in the GitHub repository of a developer, that where it kind of does no good except pad the resume or give you some place to practice your skill, which isn't a bad thing, but is a very non-useful thing for anyone else. So it ultimately is just useful to have different people from different backgrounds because it gave us a variety of things to feed into our system to test it and see that it worked. So the greater the variety of things you test the system with, the stronger it probably will be. That's definitely true for us.
How did it feel to hear that you all took first place?
It was a little bit surprising. I mean, maybe that's just the inside view, knowing that we didn't get through all of our slides we were going to show and didn't really get to fully demo the thing that we'd made. But we I guess made a convincing enough presentation. It was surprising, but it definitely felt good. We did something that we thought was useful, so we kind of limited our scope to something that felt achievable in about a 24-hour period. But I guess we did that decently well.
Awesome. And finally, is there anything else about your experience with the Blockchain Challenge this weekend, your prototype, or anything else about this event that you'd like to add that I haven't thought to ask you about?
Really, what's something that comes away for me is how willing people are to give time or energy or effort or thinking if they think that there is a worthy cause they can contribute to. So I guess a lot of the time people simply don't know where to go, or don't know what the resources are, or don't know, or I guess no one's even asking if they would. So I guess it just highlights to me the need to ask and the general willingness of people to help if they are approached about something. So really it's I guess if you want help for something, you have to ask. I guess that's one takeaway. Just a reminder that that's true.
Awesome. And one last question. I promise this really is. Has this experience changed your perspective on homelessness in Austin?
It surprised me in certain ways. I have interacted with homeless folks a number of times, but it's still surprising in some ways. You know, some of the homeless folks I've met have been homeless here and in other places. That's not a perspective I've really thought about before. How homelessness differs between cities, or how you go sort of into and out of it sometimes with certain folks, or just kind of more diversity in what experiences I'd had with homeless folks before. You know, how the homelessness experience compares in a different city and state versus how it is here in Austin and in Texas. Things like that, and the different industries people were in before they became homeless, or what they do now. You know, I honestly had never heard of the street newspaper, The Challenger, that several have referenced. So things they've done before homelessness, or that are doing now, you know, things they do that I just wasn't aware of.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Congratulations.